So at the moment I'm still very much in the middle of moving house, so a lot of my time is spent on painting, assembling furniture, and in general just lifting heavy things. So there's very little time left to create new content. Now I still wanted to upload a video this week, so I thought why not do a compilation video of the best setups that I've created in this old place, kind of as a way to say goodbye, you know? So I've created a top 10, and it's basically a mix of videos that either got a lot of views or just videos that I personally really liked. So let's get straight to it. So on number 10 we have the XXL no filter vase. This one kind of deserves to be higher in the top 10, but I also wanted to start this compilation with just a really good video, you know. It also did really well. I think it got over 300,000 views, so that's a lot. Yeah, I found this massive vase in my local garden center and I just had to buy it. So I've actually made a no filter planted vase 2 years ago, and that was kind of my first experience with no filter aquariums. So it was just a very simple setup. We had a vase, we had a light, and that was all the technical equipment. The plants were doing the filtration, and every so often I would just do a water change and a little bit of maintenance. It was very easy to care for. We also had a thriving colony of cherry shrimp, and I really got a lot of enjoyment out of that setup. I think it was also one of the most viewed videos on my channel right now. So at some point I got rid of it, but I always told myself like I want to do something like that again, but maybe on a slightly larger scale. Yeah, so a few weeks ago I went to my local garden center to look for something slightly bigger and somehow I came home with this behemoth. So this thing measures 40 centimeters tall and it's 28 centimeters across, so it holds roughly 25 liters. Yeah, I think that's roughly 6 or 7 US gallons. So that's a 35 liter tank right there, so you can kind of see the scale. It's a pretty big vase. So they had a lot of these things in my local garden center, but I chose this one because it has relatively thick glass. I think this is maybe 3 or 4 millimeters, something like that. And the base is relatively thick as well. So sometimes, you know, these glass vases can be very thin and fragile because, you know, normally a vase you would only fill up to about here because the rest will be just flowers or a bouquet or something like that, you know. But I made sure that this one is quite thick. So yeah, I think this is a good vessel for our new no filter scape. Okay, first thing I want to do is cut out a little foam mat for this vase. So I have these foam mats underneath all my tanks and they're just a bit of a security measure. You can imagine once this vase is filled up with water and rocks and gravel, it's quite heavy. And if you have like a tiny object sitting underneath this vase, that can become a pressure point and can actually break the glass. So we want to of course prevent that from happening. So just a little foam mat. This costs absolutely nothing. So I'm just going to cut out the circle. That's it. Okay, that's our foam mat done. Now we need a light. This was a bit tricky because of the round corners, you know, not every aquarium light fits on there, but I think I found something good. I recently got a few new products from Danila. They've also sent me this Trocal Style 2 8 watts. So this is for tanks from 30 to 60 liters, 1280 lumens, and it's 6500 Kelvin. So it's a nice daylight. So let's see if this fits on this vase. Here we go, that's the light. It's quite big, but it's perfect for this vase because it has this sort of like a clip on the back. That's a little bit flexible as well. So we should be able to clamp this on top of the vase. Here we go. Boom. We have light. Here we go, that's our light installed. Looking good. It's quite bright, it's quite powerful. Maybe a bit too powerful actually for a low-tech setup, but we can always just use a bunch of floating plants to dim the light a bit. Let's move on, let's go make a nice hardscape. I've already been playing around with the hardscape these past few days, so I know exactly what we're going to make today. I have a couple of really nice pieces of wood. This stuff right here is called Entwood. It's a product from Strideways. And I've already used this piece once before in my no filter guppy aquarium. I'll overlay a clip so you guys can see how that looked. And I really like this wood because it's very easy to work with. I mean, this stuff doesn't release any tannins. It doesn't grow any mold like some other types of wood do, Redmore wood for example. And yeah, it has some really nice lines. So I have 3 pieces of this, 2 big ones and 1 small one. And then I also have 3 big rocks. This is called relief stone. It's basically lava rock, but it's a bit more dense and it has a bit more character than your regular black lava rock. So yeah, really good stuff. So let me show you guys what I have in mind. basically what I had in mind. I think that looks pretty good. I like all the curves that we have going on here. So I would like to have some cosmetic sand in the foreground here. And then in the background we can fill in with aquasol and substrate and make that a good biological filter, because we're not going to have any filtration here. And then we can just add in a load of plants. I think it's going to look really good. Now these pieces would have been outside, so they're a bit wet, but I'm pretty sure that they are still going to float up to the surface. So I'm just going to glue everything down just to be safe. And as always, I'm going to use my cotton pads for that. So for anyone who hasn't seen this method yet, I always like to use these cotton pads. I kind of pull them apart and then just take little pieces like that, kind of push them together. And then with my tweezers, I'll grab them and then I'll wedge them in between the 2 points that I want to connect. So here in front, for example, the piece of wood and the rocks are touching each other. So I'm going to wedge it in between there. You can see that it's tightly wedged in between the rock and the wood. So now we take some liquid type super glue and we basically saturate that entire cotton piece with the super glue. And if you need a really strong bond, you can take a little bit of baking soda. Just sprinkle a little bit of that baking soda on top of the cotton pad. Then apply some more glue and then you have a super strong bond, like nothing is going to move that anymore. Of course, this will kind of alter the water parameters a little bit as well, so it might raise the water hardness a little bit. So if you're using a lot of this, just make sure you do an extra water change or something. Okay, we're done gluing. I basically just repeated that process about 5 or 6 times and now everything is just completely stuck together. Nothing is going to move anymore. So now we can move on to the substrate. So I have a few things I want to use. First of all, wetland Ionian black. This is basically just crushed black lava rock. And this will be a good home for beneficial bacteria, which is something we definitely need a lot of in a no filter setup. Then I have some leftover fluval stratum. So this is aquasol, contains some nutrients as well. And then in the foreground, so basically that area, I want to have some nice cosmetic sand. So I've got some Rio sand, Tigris. In my first no filter vase, I had some cosmetic sand in the foreground as well. But one issue that kept coming back is that the aquasol would start rolling forward and start mixing with the sand. That just looks very unsightly. So I have some small gaps here underneath the rocks and on the sides. So I'm going to close those gaps with a little bit of filter wool. And this, you might see it in the beginning, but after a while that will get dirty and will get darker and we're not going to see it anymore. Okay, there's all the gaps closed. Yeah, it just looks a little bit odd right now, but by the end of this video, none of that will be visible anymore. So now we can move on to the substrate. I'll first fill in the layer of the crushed lava rock, then I'll top that with the fluval stratum, and I might do the sand straight away, maybe I will save it for later. Okay, that's the substrate layer in. Let's take a look from the top. So we have quite a thick substrate layer. I think in the back it's almost like 10 centimeters. But that's good, you know, especially in these no filter tanks, you want to have quite a thick substrate layer because this substrate will do a lot of the filtration for you. And also it's quite a high vase, you know, it's 40 centimeters. So if you have a higher substrate, then the stems will be closer to the light as well. And you will not have these like bare stems without any leaves. So a thick substrate layer. Now let's move on with the cosmetic sand. I've also washed some of these small pebbles. So they look a little bit, or they're almost the same color as the black lava rock, so they will match nicely and give a nice contrast in the white sand. Alright then, I think that's the hardscape done. Little look from the top. Nice. Yeah, the sand really brought it together. The small little pebbles as well. Some nice details. Most of the white filter floss has already been covered up as well. So now we just need to figure out which plants we want to use. And as always, we have a beautiful, healthy selection of plants kindly provided by Dandelion Plants. So we have some nice in vitro giant moss. I have a crypt here, the crypt Wenditii broadleaf. Some Boes of London, of course, Boost Syrian Blue Brown. And then they have a new plant here, the Anubias Nana Jade. So this is a jade green Anubias. Really, really beautiful. Yeah, the color is not really showing, but it's a really interesting color. And then here we have some water sprite, we have some Liliopsis, we have some Merophyllum, and a few other plants. I'm going to start with this, probably end up using a lot more than this, but let's just start with this. Okay, so plants are all prepared, but I do have some doubts about the Anubias Jade, the jade green. The leaves are quite big, and I think it's gonna kind of ruin the sense of scale that we have going on right here. So for example, I was thinking maybe some over here inside that gap, for example, you know. I know it's quite big, you know, it just, yeah, it's a beautiful plant. I just don't think it really fits in this particular layout. Over here in this aquarium, I have some really small Anubias. Look at that. I think that will actually work much better in this cape. Okay, I'm gonna start in the center area here. There's a lava rock underneath it, so I just need to check where I can actually plant in. So here's rock, here's rock. This part here is all empty. And then here we have rock again. So there's not really a lot of space, but we can make it work. So the first plant to go in there will be the Blixa japonica. Been using this a lot lately, and it really is one of my favorite plants. Then on the left side, I'm gonna plant Merophyllum Guyana. So this is a very small, very delicate stem plant, but it's really beautiful. It doesn't grow too fast either, so it should be relatively low maintenance as well. So that's good. Then in front of the Guyana, I'm gonna plant Limnophila Vietnam. So this is another small and slow growing stem plant. And just in front of that, I'm gonna plant one bunch of the Cryptowendtia broadleaf. I've not used this crypt a whole lot, but I feel like because it's in vitro, it stays relatively small as well, so it should work in that position. I'm gonna wedge another one over there. The roots will eventually find their way into the substrate. Then I'm gonna use a little bit of this giant moss to cover up those last bits of white filter floss. So I've just applied a little bit of super glue to the moss, and then I'm just gonna press it in there. Then the in vitro Bucephalandra, I'm actually gonna glue them to some of these smaller rocks like I've already used in the foreground here. And then I can just place them on top of there and just kind of move them around wherever I like. Yeah, I think we're almost there. I've planted the water sprite behind the wood. I think that looks nice. And on the right side, I've planted some of the Liliopsis. I think we have a little bit more space in between there for one stem plant, so we should grab something red. I have some crazy red Rotala orange juice in this tank, so I think I'm going to take a few stems of that and plant that in the vase as well. Okay, I think that's our XXL vase planted, all done. I'm really happy with the end result. I think it's going to look amazing. I like that we still kept most of the hardscape visible. Yeah, let's fill it up. So the vase has been up and running for 3 weeks now. It's definitely grown in a bit, it's looking good. So it's ready for some inhabitants. I'm thinking we should definitely get some shrimp, but maybe some fish as well. I mean, it's a vase, but it's still quite big. I mean, it's 25 liters, so I think it's big enough for some small fish, but just not really sure what to get yet. So I'm in my local fish shop, Hames. And I mean, in terms of shrimp, we are definitely spoiled for choice. So they have loads of red Rileys. They've got the blue ones, they've got orange ones. We've got some really nice crystal reds, yellow shrimp, crystal blacks, and the red ones as well. And here they have the green jades, so they have loads of options. Water is slightly murky here. I think they just did some maintenance, but yeah, which one should we go for? I already have the orange ones, I already have the blue ones, and I have the red ones as well, but I think I'm actually leaning more towards the red ones because they will definitely pop in that vase, you know. And then in terms of fish, they have these small chili rasboras. So these guys are really nice and they could definitely be a good option for the vase. I was also looking at these guys. It's a bit hard to see, but these are called emerald rasbora, so slightly different than the galaxies, but still a very nice fish. Maybe just a bit too big for a vase, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go for the red cherry shrimp. I already have some at home, but these guys are just better colored. They just look nicer, and they will definitely stand out in the vase. And a small group of the chili rasboras as well. I think that's just a really nice combination. We're back home, so we've got 8 of the chili rasboras, and I've got 10 of the red cherry shrimp. Super exciting. Fun fact, the cherry shrimp are actually bigger than the chili rasboras. But yeah, they've been acclimating for a little bit and we're going to release them soon. I'm sure some people are wondering, like, Mark, how on earth are you going to do maintenance on this vase, because it's quite tall? And I'm not gonna lie, that was actually something I kind of overlooked as well. I knew that I wanted to place the vase on the shelf, but kind of forgot that there would be limited space on top. It's actually fine. I mean, doing water changes is easy. I've also got a little algae magnet here on the side, so that's also going to make maintenance easier. So really the only difficult thing will be trimming plants, but it's a no filter setup. Plants are growing quite slowly, so should be fine. Oh, and by the way, we actually already have some fish in the vase. 2 days ago I added 2 other sinklets just to kind of help with the algae cleanup. Not like there was any algae, but just to make sure the tank stays nice and clean, you know. The only thing I'm having doubts about is the cosmetic sand, because as you can see, there's already some fish poop and snail poop visible, so that's not very attractive. But if it starts to bother me, then I can always swap to some gravel or something. But yeah, fish and shrimp are acclimated, so let's release them. I've got all the cherry shrimp, so let's release them first. I think I saw a few buried as well, so that's nice. Should have some babies soon. They're really super red. They're big as well. It's going to be fun to see because the vase sort of has a magnifying effect. So the piece of wood in the middle, for example, looks much bigger right now. So I think the shrimp will look much bigger as well. That's cool. Yeah, I think going for the red cherry shrimp, I mean, even though they're quite standard and basic, they're still very nice and they will definitely stand out in here. I mean, we mostly have green plants. We do have the red stems on the side there, but they're just not as vibrant red anymore as when I first planted them. So these cherry shrimp are definitely going to stand out. Really happy with that. Okay, here come the chili rasboras. I've moved the camera closer because these guys are tiny. Literally half the size of the cherry shrimp. Here you go, guys. Welcome to your new home. It's going to be quite difficult to get a good focus on these chili rasboras. They're so small. They're very pale right now as well, but last weekend I was in the UK at Horizon Aquatics, and they had a display tank there with some chili rasboras as well, and they were super red. Never seen chili rasboras that vibrant red before, but so it would be nice if these guys can get the same color. Then on number 9 we have a little Blackwater setup. So I've done a few Blackwater setups in the past, but I think this one was my favorite. And I also really like the fish in this one. In the past couple of weeks I've kind of been changing up my style a little bit with these build videos, going away from these really heavily planted tanks to a bit more of a mix between biotopes and aquascaping. So we already did the South American inspired Big Shallow with the Epistogramma and the green neon tetras. Recently we did the river style with the celestial pearl danios. And today we're transforming this UNS30C into a Blackwater cube for blue neon rasboras. Now I'd really love to display this cube on our shelf, but that brings us with a few issues. The biggest one being the fact that we don't have space anymore. We already have 5 tanks up and running. So that means that 1 tank has to go. Now, I'm currently still very happy with this one. Still very happy with this one. Happy with this one. Also happy with this one. But I'm not happy with this one. I already mentioned in a previous video that I wanted to start taking this one down. This used to be the blue velvet shrimpscape. I already moved most of the shrimp out into the new river stylescape with the celestial pearl danios. I think there might still be one or two in here. There's actually still one there on the filter. So I initially set this one up as a high-tech tank with CO2 injection, but after a few months, all the plants had grown in properly, and I decided to try and remove the CO2 and see what would happen. And actually for the first 1 or 2 months, everything was looking good. Plants were still growing nicely, but then after 2 months, the hair grass in the back started to turn brown. And after that, they just kind of started looking a little bit sad. So I could, of course, try to fix the aquascape, add the CO2 back in, get the plants fully growing again. I don't know, I've just kind of lost interest with this aquascape, and I think it's more fun to start something new again. So while we're getting ready to set up this new tank, I'm just going to keep this filter running somewhere else, just so we can keep all these beneficial bacteria alive. And then that way the new tank can get cycled faster as well, Yeah, so this is kind of where my second issue comes in. Some people might not really find this a big deal, but all 4 tanks that we have up and running are rectangular tanks. And then to have a cube there, it just looks a little bit odd, kind of hurts my OCD. Also, this is going to be a natural style Blackwater tank, and all 4 of them are like super heavily planted. So it's going to look completely out of place. So I was talking about this with my girlfriend the other day, and she actually came up with this genius solution to put that tank over there in the middle. On the right side, we already have the natural style big shallow, which is also a little bit Blackwater, has a little tint to the water. So if we're going to have the cube next to it, it's going to look much more balanced, So we're going to move that tank to that shelf, move the cube to there. I think then we have a nice, just a nice setup. Okay, then that's our tank swap done, looking pretty good. So that's our empty canvas for today. We have a UNS 30C, Twin Star B series LED light, and then the hang on the back filter that I showed you earlier. I'm sure some of you are thinking like, hey Mark, that's a UNS tank. UNS is an American brand, aren't you like in the Netherlands? That's true, I'm still in the Netherlands, haven't moved to the US yet. It's an American brand, but it's actually now available in Europe as well. I got this one sponsored, I got it directly from the German distributor who was importing them. So it's super cool to see UNS here in Europe. Really happy with the quality of the tank, super low iron glass, invisible silicone, and I really like the thick format. It's much thicker than other brands that I've seen so far. So, really happy with this little cube. The only thing this cube is still missing is a background. Now I thought because we're doing a Blackwater scape, I'm gonna go with a black background. But because all the other tanks have a white background, I think I'm gonna go with white again. Okay, the background is done, which means that we can now move on to our hardscape. But the idea that I have for this little cube is to make like a mini version of the Big Shallow. The Big Shallow is South American themed. This is going to be more like Asian themed. I think the blue neon reservoirs are from Malaysia. Not sure actually. So this is going to be like Asian themed Blackwater. Now in the Big Shallow, I've used black lava rocks and centurion wood. I'm definitely not going to use the centurion wood because it gave me a lot of troubles with mold and water clarity and stuff like that. But I'm definitely going to use black lava rocks in here as well. So this is actually not your typical black lava rock. This is called relief stone. And it's a bit more dense, a bit more textured than regular black lava rocks. Looks pretty cool. In the back I've just used the regular one, just kind of close the gap because I want to have some aquasol in the back and decorative sand in the front. Next up, let's move on to some wood. And the piece of wood that I want to use is currently in this tank. Bit of a story here. I've used this piece of wood before in my 10-liter no filter aquascape. And I took that tank down like, I don't know, 6 months ago, 7 months ago. But I kept the wood submerged in that tank, in my window. It was basically like serving as a plant holding tank. So I kept the wood in there because there was a lot of moss on the wood. And I knew that someday I'm going to use this piece of wood again. So So I kept it in that plant holding tank, and yesterday I took it out. I dropped it in here because there was a little bit of algae on there, but now the shrimp have cleared it out completely. So now we can take it out and start building our hardscape. Okay, we're making progress. So I moved the bigger rock more to the side and the smaller one in the middle there. So yeah, starting to look good. We're not done yet. I want to close the gaps that you see over there and over there. And I think for that I want to use this stuff right here. This is Gravel Druid from Rio. I've used the same stuff in the big shallow as well. So it's the gravel that you see scattered around the base. Yeah, let's see if that looks nice or not. Right, it's starting to look pretty good already. Right now it feels very much aquascaped, and we're trying to go for that natural style, almost biotope style. So I want to add in a little bit more wood in the form of like twigs and branches. For that I'm going to use this stuff. This is Rio Elder Root. So basically just a bag full of twigs and branches. I guess you can go to your local forest and get the same thing, but I have this stuff, so I'm going to use it. Okay, I am pleasantly surprised by how that looks. Those twigs and branches instantly made it look more natural. Of course they're all dry, so we have to glue everything together. I also really like that little gap that we have created here. It's almost like a little tunnel. We have to make sure that we put a plant behind there or something, just to give it more depth even. Okay, while we're waiting for the glue to cure, we can talk about the sand. Yes, we're talking about sand. It's come to this point right now. For the sand, I'm going to use this product. This is Rio Biotope Beds Mir. Not sure how you pronounce that. It's like yellowish sand. Actually, let me open it up so we can see it properly. Here we go, that's what was in the bag. So we have like a yellowish orangey sand. We have some twigs, we have some pebbles, small gravel as well. So it's like a really cool, super natural mix. I used a different bag in the Celestial Aquascape. This one is called the Glacier. So it had like a dark sand, different colors of gravel, different colors of pebbles. So all the Rio products that I'm using for this build, so the Druid Gravel, the Elderly Roots and this sand, those products are all sponsored, and I'll leave links in the description if you guys want to check it out yourself, buy some yourself. Now before we continue, we do need to wash this gravel because it is quite dirty, it's very dusty. So let's give it a wash and then we can continue. So while we're making an absolute mess of this tank, I want to continue with the substrate in the back. For that I want to use a little bit of old aqua soil. So over here I have the tank that we just took down previously. In here we still have a lot of aqua soil. And this stuff contains a lot of beneficial bacteria already. So I want to use a little bit of this on the bottom, then cap it with fresh aqua soil, and then we just have a lot of beneficial bacteria from the start. We can get the fish in faster, we should have less issues with algae as well, so let's try that. Yeah, just a little bit, should be enough. Drop that in the back. Maybe we'll do one more, and then we cap it with fresh soil. Okay, I think that's the hardscape, sand, substrate all done. Currently it's looking a little bit messy, so I think I'm just going to fill the tank up with water. I think then we can take a better look at what we're doing, what kind of plants we're going to add. You can also add in the filter. Yeah, let's do that. Right, tank's all filled up, filter's up and running. Water is a little bit cloudy though, so let's see if we can clear it up with Seachem Clarity. So we'll add this in, wait a few hours, come back and do the planting. Well, a few hours actually turned into a few days, and it's now been a full week since we finished the hardscape of this cube. That's okay, we're not in a rush. It actually gave me some time to think about the plants for this layout, because it is going to be a Blackwater tank, but I still want some green in there, you know.
But yeah, the water cleared up nicely and I think the hardscape is looking good. It's quite simple. I mean, it's only 2 lava rocks and a couple of twigs. But especially in these Blackwater tanks, you don't really need much more than that, you know? Like, there's no point in going really heavy on the details with the hardscape because we're going to add floating plants, we're going to add tannins, and then you won't be able to see half of the hardscape. Alright, so here's our plant selection for today. And we have a little guest as well. Hello. So we have some floating plants, they've already been inside the tank. We're going to add them back later. We have a few pots of giant hairgrass. It's going to be way too much, but you see how much we use. Then underneath here we have a Java fern, of course. Can't go wrong with a Java fern. This is, yeah, I forgot the name of this plant. I'll put all the names of the plants on the screen as I'm planting them. And then underneath here we have some plants that I basically rescued from the previous tank that was on the shelf. So we have some small crypts, we have some small boosters as well. And we'll just see how much of this we're going to add. Okay, so I'm going to start with the background and with the giant hairgrass because I'm very curious how it's going to look. So that was just one plug of that giant hairgrass and it immediately brought the whole thing to life. Let's add in a few more. Let's move on to the Java fern. I've actually split that pot in half, so we have 2 portions. I'm thinking one portion over there on the left side, maybe one more portion behind that piece of wood. Yeah, Java fern looking good. Next, let's fill in the background with more of the giant hairgrass. Okay, moving on to a few crypts. This is the crypt albino brown that came from the other tank. I'm going to place this in, mixed in with the giant hairgrass, so I should be just poking over that lava rock basically. Now I don't really like this gap that we have over here. There's some light coming from there, it just looks a bit weird. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of moss from this aquascape and use that to basically fill up that gap. Should look better. That's a bit better. I think once we have the floating plants in there and once we have the tannins in there, it shouldn't really be that light anymore. Now I think the only thing left to do is to basically plant some small crypts and small boosters in the foreground area. And then I think the planting is done. So I decided not to use this plant anymore. I don't think we need it in here, and also it just looks a bit off. So I think that's the planting done. I'm really happy with that. Looks super good. We just need some little bit more floating plants. We can add them and then we can move on to creating some tannins. Okay, time to make some tannins. For that I'm going to use this stuff. This is mulch bed from Wio. It's the same stuff that I used in the big shallow as well. It's basically just a bag full of small pieces of twig, small pieces of bark. So we put this in a small bucket, pour on some boiling water, let it soak for a little bit. I might add in some catappa leaves as well. And then we'll let it soak for a little bit and then we can add all of it to the aquarium, the mulch and also the tinted water. There's actually one more thing that I want to add to this cube. So a few weeks ago we did the big shallow and I went to my local garden center to pick up some houseplants. I only ended up using this little fern over there, but I bought a few more and I placed them behind some of my tanks. So there's one over there, looks really good. There's another one over there and I wanted to do something similar over here on this little cube. And I found this one and I think this is what people call a photos, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think this plant should be able to grow from the hang on the back filter. I think that will be pretty cool. It's just a bit of an experiment. So I think I'm just gonna remove all the soil from this pot, so we just have the roots, place it in the hang on the back filter, and just see if it works. Okay, a few days have passed again. The tank is ready, it's cycled, ready for fish. Actually, I had some troubles finding these fish. I guess it was a little friendly reminder to myself that if I want to set up a tank for a little bit more or a little bit less common fish, I need to find them first before I start the tank, because the tank was ready and then none of the shops in my local area actually had them for sale, so that was a bit of an issue, but I found them. We are back at Utaka. I was actually here a few weeks ago, and this store specializes in like more rare fish, so I checked out their website. They have a complete stock list on their website, and they said they have some blue neon rasboras in stock. So let's go inside, let's see if they actually still have them. Here they are. So they actually have two types. This is the one that I'm looking for, the Sundadanio axelrodi. And then on top of here, I noticed that they have another similar species. This is the Sundadanio retiarius. Yeah, slightly different, but I think I like the axelrodi better. These have a little bit more blue, it seems. And these fish are actually wild caught. So yesterday I messaged them and said, hey, what kind of water parameters are you guys keeping these fish on? And they're keeping them on reverse osmosis water. I set up the tank with tap water, so we slowly have to change that to reverse osmosis water. So yesterday I already did a water change with pure RO water. This morning I did another one, and I think when I come home I'll do a third one. So hopefully the water parameters will sort of be matching with what they're keeping them here, because they are quite sensitive fish, so we have to be really careful with that. Okay, fish are acquired. We've got 10 of the neon blue rasboras. Shall we do a little quick store tour? I'm not sure if everybody saw that other video that I made. Yeah, this store is divided into continents basically. So this area here is pure Asia. It's not the biggest area. The biggest area is downstairs in the basement. But yeah, they have a really good selection of fish from Asia in general. They have a couple of really nice display tanks as well. Lots of Blackwater theme going on here. Huge selection of plants as well. And then if you move over to this side, this is where they keep all the fish from Africa. I guess this is the smallest section of the entire store. Yeah, this is all Africa, so of course lampi achilles, of course some Crebensis cichlids here as well, the famous Congo tetras. And then you think that's it? No, there's more. Next we go downstairs. And this is where it's super dark, so it might be a little bit hard to film, but downstairs there's a whole other section. This is all South America. So they have a huge display tank in the center here with discus. And then just a lot of tanks with all fish from South America. Mostly these are the smaller fish, so like the tetras, the dwarf cichlids. And then if you move over to this side, there's another section. And here we have all the bigger South American fish. So like the angelfish, discus fish, big plecos, big cichlids, stuff like that. And a massive shallow display tank here as well. This one is actually going to be rescaped soon. I think it's going to be another Blackwater. Okay, so that's it, just a quick tour of this store. Definitely worth a visit if you're in the neighborhood. Let me go and pay for the fish and I'll see you guys back home. And we're back home. So currently all the lights on the tanks are actually off. That's because we just had a bit of a heat wave here in the Netherlands, and all these lights together produce quite a bit of heat. So in order to reduce it, I switched to a very short photo period from like 6 AM to 12 AM, just for a few hours. So as I mentioned, I want to do one more water change before we start acclimating these guys, because the water parameters are still slightly different. Currently in this aquarium we have a TDS of about 133, and in there it's like 55, so it's almost triple the TDS. I could probably just start acclimating them now and just get them adjusted to a slightly higher TDS, but because these fish are a little bit sensitive, I don't really want to take any risk, and I'd rather just get the water parameters adjusted to what they're used to, you know? So let's just start doing water change and then start acclimating them. Here we go, water change done. So we are now at a TDS of 76. So that's much closer to 55. I've actually started to drip acclimate them. So I just took a little piece of airline tubing, tied a knot in there, and now it's just slowly dripping into the bag with the fish. And I'm gonna leave it like that for, I don't know, 2-3 hours or so. So just so they can get really slowly acclimated. Should be super safe, and yeah, we'll come back later. Straight away went to hide in the back. Yeah, that was to be expected, of course. Well, let's give them some time to get adjusted. Now, because we did like 3 water changes in like less than 24 hours, we kind of lost that tint to the water. So let's fix that again.
On number 8 we have a little shrimp tank. I made this one early 2022, really enjoyed it. And the video got over 100,000 views, so I guess you guys enjoyed it as well.
Okay, that was just some leftover aquasol that I had lying around and I wanted to use. Probably not enough, but it's a good base layer for our hardscape. I'm not sure yet if I want to use a cosmetic sand in the foreground or just keep it soil and go for a carpet, but yeah, we'll see along the way. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. So just like 4 pieces, all kind of intertwined, just to make it look like it's one big piece. And this wood is like some type of spider wood, but it's a bit darker than usual. So if you see over there on that piece, like you see those black patches. So it used to be completely black like that, but I think the shrimp and the otocinclus kind of ate the bark from it. I've used these pieces before, that's why. Next up is to add some small rocks. So I'm going to be using the exact same rocks as I've used in this aquarium. This is called Geo Rock or Geo Stone. It's very interesting, really textured. So let's add some small stones here. Yeah, I think we're onto something here. I think it's starting to look nice. I might still change the position of the rocks, so I'm still not 100% sure about that. We still need to add in more soil as well, so then we can make the final adjustments. I think it's a good idea not to go for a sand substrate, because these rocks are very small, and to be able to create a barrier with them might be tricky. So let's just go with a nice green carpet in the foreground. So I just had a quick lunch break while I was eating. The doorbell rang and box full of plants. Couldn't be more on time. Thank you Dental Plants for sponsoring the plants for this setup. Let's open this up. Let's see what we have to work with. A little sneak peek behind the box here. This week I'm actually setting up 2 tanks. This is the first one. The one behind it is the second one. So that's going to be another video. So plants for these 2 setups are sponsored by Dental Plants. So huge shout out to them. Thank you very much as always. Actually 1 month ago I was in Germany at Dental Plants. I set up 2 tanks there as well, made 2 videos. If you didn't see those videos, I'll leave them in the description and on top of the screen right now. Alright, let's see what we got. Long list. Alright, here we go, that's most of it. Like I said, we're going to be setting up 2 tanks this week. So this is not all for that 20 liter nano. What we are going to be using is some hairgrass, Eleocharis acicularis. We're going to be using some Hemianthus calitricoides cuba, some beautiful crypt parva, it's one of my favorites. Some more crypt parva, and then I also saw, here it is. Another one of my favorites, crypt lutea hobbit, super small crypt. Alright, so that was our plant selection. Now moving back to the tank, I think the hardscape is about 90% done. So I just covered everything in a nice layer of powder soil. I'm using the Aquarium Neo powder soil. It just looks better in these small tanks, you know. If you have these really big grains of soil, it just looks a bit off. Next up is to glue the hardscape. I'm going to glue all the pieces of wood together, so it's just one solid piece. And then see if I can glue it to some of these smaller rocks, just to make sure it doesn't float. Alright, that's the gluing done. I think, let's do a little test. Yeah, feels pretty secure. So let's see here. So over there I've connected it on 2 points. So on the lower end there as well. In between there, behind there. So you see all those white pieces of cotton pad. So we need to cover that up. And for that I have actual soil powder. So here we have just regular soil, old stuff that I've literally just grinded into a powder. So we're going to apply that. We're first going to apply a little bit more glue onto those white spots. Then dust a little bit of that soil on top of it. And then it's all black and you literally don't see it anymore. So I just finished basically removing most of the rock wool from all the plants. Look at this crypt lutea hobbit, super cute. What I want to show you is the Hemianthus cuba. So here I left the rock wool on because there's a little tip that I learned from Mr. Juris, is to actually leave a small portion of the rock wool on. So he actually just cuts it off like this, I think. So this portion you just cut off and you leave like a small amount on. So we're just gonna cut this in half. Cut this in smaller portions again. So we cut this in half. So I think I divided this one pot of Hemianthus scuba into like 15 small portions, and every portion has a little piece of rock wool attached to it. And this little piece of rock wool we're going to be using to basically plant it into the aqua soil. Because this Hemianthus scuba has super small roots, it's really difficult to plant it and to make sure that it doesn't float up again. So this little piece of rock wool just serves as a little anchor basically. The first time I tried it was like a month ago when I was actually scaping together with Theories. I tried it and it actually works really well, so it's definitely something I would recommend doing if you're using these small carpeting plants like Hemianthus scuba. Alright, we're basically ready to start planting, super excited. Now me personally, I like to plant in very wet soil, so what I'm going to do is I'll add about half a liter, maybe even a liter of water, just to make sure that this soil is completely saturated before I start planting. I'm not sure if it makes any difference, but I feel like aqua soil also soaks up water, so if you add a plant that has a little bit of moisture in it into dry soil, the soil is going to soak up all the moisture from the plant, and the plant is going to dry out quicker, which is even more stress for plants. Alright, here we go. So first plant going in is of course the Hemianthus scuba. Actually very excited about this because it's been a very long time since I had a carpet of scuba. So right now I think I have 2 tanks with Glossostigma as a carpet. I have 2 tanks with Monte Carlo as a carpet. What else? I have a tank with the Marcellea as a carpet, but nothing with scuba for a long time already. So yeah, I'm excited about this. So this is just a small tank and I have more than enough plants, but if you're planting a bigger tank, it's always good to kind of think beforehand how far apart you're going to plant these small patches, you know, just to make sure that you have enough, just to make sure you cover the entire surface area. Yeah, in this case we don't really have to worry about that. Right, so that was 1 pot worth of the Hemianthus scuba. I'm definitely going to add more, but I first want to move on to some crypts, just to make sure that we don't fill up all the space with scuba and then we don't have any spots left for the crypt. So yeah, let's do that. So I have 2 types of crypts. We have here crypt parva, and this is crypt lutea hobbit. So the crypt parva is very small right now. I think it will still grow a little bit bigger. The lutea hobbit, actually the immersed leaves are a little bit smaller than this. So I'm not sure which one to use in front, which one to use behind it, but I think I'm just going to mix them up a little bit. Will look good anyway. That's both the crypt hobbit and the crypt parva planted. Try to keep everything as close to the rocks and the wood. If a crypt is too much in the open, I feel like it's not really natural, you know, like these plants should be close to rocks, close to wood, in shaded areas preferably. So now we'll fill up the rest of the empty spaces with more Hemianthus scuba. The next plant going in is this one, Eriocaulon cinerum. This one is a bit of a gamble. Not sure if it's going to work. It's an advanced plant, needs highlight, high CO2, I think preferably soft water as well, which I don't have, so this is going to be tricky. It's going to go right behind the piece of wood over there, and yeah, I have an idea. I'm not sure if it's going to work. This plant grows very spiky, so I want to see those spikes just behind that piece of wood. So I hope it's going to work. Keep our fingers crossed. Just a little side view on the Eriocaulon. So just behind the wood. I do have some doubts right now because if it doesn't grow those spikes, you see, we're basically not going to see it. So I'm thinking to also place a little bit on either side here, just behind those rocks, just behind the scuba basically. I think that will also look nice. Okay, next I'm planting the Eleocarpus, the longer hairgrass. So I want this to basically fill up the entire background because I didn't want to go with stems again, just the usual, you know, like Rotala or whatever. I just wanted to do something different. I think an entire
carpet of hair grass in the background. I think that can be pretty cool. And hopefully it will kind of stay this long as well, so if we don't trim it, it should be fine. And since this is going to be a shrimp tank, like an entire carpet of hair grass, like shrimplets can like literally hide in there, so that's a good thing as well. So I had 5 pots of this longer hair grass. I'm pretty sure I'm going to use all of it. So that's 5 pots of the Eleocharis acicularis planted. I think that looks really good, like nice and grassy, something different. And I just had an idea for the other scape that I'm doing this week. I've ordered this plant, Juncus repens, and I have 3 pots of this. And I think 1 pot mixed in with the Eleocharis will actually look really nice as well. A bit more wild, a bit more chaotic. So that's just a random idea that I had. Let's go with it. So we have a few more spaces just around the wood, and for that I have this plant right here. This one is actually not from Denler, this one's from Tropica. So I hope Denler will forgive me. But this one has been on my wish list for a very long time. Somehow it was always out of stock. This is Cryptocorin albida brown. And I'm very excited about this plant. It will also add some nice color to this layout because we have only green plants. So some brown crypto will look really nice, I think. Alright, little YouTube magic. It's now 3 weeks later. Just did a water test a few days ago. Still had some nitrites, but this morning they were gone, so the tank is fully cycled, ready for some shrimp. So I'm back at my local fish shop. I don't know if you guys can see that. Hames. Let's see if they still have some beautiful shrimp. Here we go. Still have a lot of them actually. So here they have the blue ones, looking really good. That's the blue velvet. Then they have the red ones. Well, we already have red ones. Then they have Caridina as well, but I don't want Caridinas, they're a bit too sensitive for me. Yellow ones, also really nice. Looking really, really good. Some crystal red, some orange ones. And over here they have some, what is this? Green jade. Also looking really good. So let's see, which one should we go for? Oh, they have some more over here. These all look cool. This is the sun-kissed Riley. Also really nice. So I think I'm either going for the blue ones or the yellow ones. Okay, so the shrimp are currently being caught. I went with the blue ones, super exciting. In the meantime, let's take a quick look at the store because they have some really nice display tanks over here. I mean, look at the ones over here. There's some crazy colors. Look at the Rotala Atra, super red. Peanut Vida also turning nice and pink. A really beautiful fish. This is the, I think they call it rainbow shiners or something. This is cool. They have these pillows with Riccia fluitans. This one is nice as well. It's a bit more like a classic Dutch style. And this plant I really like. That's the Amania pedicalata golden. Yeah, really nice.
Over here they have another small display tank. It's like a Danilus Scapers tank 55 or 70, something like that. I think they just replanted the foreground here with some Marstellea. Some beautiful green rasboras in here. I like this plant as well. This is the Proserpinaca palustris. Or I think it's called mermaid weed, something like that. Yeah, it's a nice little display tank. Here they have the plant section. So they have this huge display in the middle here. And then these tanks here are also fully stocked with plants. Really nice in vitro fridge as well. And then yeah guys, this shop is absolutely massive. They have another display tank in front where we just passed by. Nice vase highline. I think this one was also rescaped recently. The shop has an absolutely massive fish selection as well. So over here they have like a corner. So there are some of the bigger fish. And then over there in the corner where we just were, where the shrimp are, and some nano fish. And then over there they have like all the pond fish basically. Let's take a quick look over here as well. Some nice discus. Oh, these are looking nice. What are these? Leopard snakeskin discus. Really nice. Oof, some nice angelfish as well. These are looking good. Angelfish, blue pinoy. Okay, never heard of that. Some nice cories and epistogramma. More cories. The electric blue ramajesi. The normal German blue rams. I should buy some of those as well. I should set up a tank for them. And we're back home again. So let's see, we got the shrimp in the bag here. We're gonna start drip acclimating them soon. Let's take a quick look at the tank because, well, it's been 3 weeks since you guys last saw it. For you guys, it was only a few minutes. But yeah, the tank is doing really good. I've installed a hang on the back filter. This one is from Azu, I think. I'll leave a link in the description. Very good filter, very cheap. Do remind me that I put a little sponge on the intake just to make sure we don't get any shrimp sucked into the filter. I've added some CO2 as well. This is my DIY CO2 system with yeast and sugar. And yeah, plant growth has been quite good. I did have a little bit of diatom algae, some regular startup algae, nothing to worry about. But to kind of help get rid of it, I added one autosynclus. He will go back to his buddies soon again. Yeah, plant's been growing really well. We already have a full carpet of the Hemianthus scuba. It kind of needs a trim already. But I'll wait another week with that. And the hair grass in the background has filled up nicely. Could also use a trim maybe. Oh, and I don't think I showed it, but I've also added some Ricardia moss here. There's some Ricardia infestidens over there and Ricardia over there. And all three are kind of looking a little bit rough, kind of covered in diatom algae. But they will bounce back for sure. I think it's time we start drip acclimating these shrimp. There they are. So we got 10 of the Neocaridina blue velvet. I think these are going to look absolutely amazing in this little scape. I was really having doubts between the blue ones and the yellow ones and even the orange ones as well. So I think we have to go back for the yellow ones as well. I still have some baby guppies in here, but I think we can move them to a bigger tank, and then we can make space here for maybe the orange ones. I think orange would look really cool in here. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Alright, so we're draining some water from the tank through this hose, going down, going down, going down. Then I've tied a knot here just to kind of reduce the water flow. So right now it's just dripping. So this is sort of like drip acclimating. So we'll come back in an hour and then we will release the shrimp.
Then on number 7 we have another no filter setup, and I think this was actually my first no filter aquarium. But guys, this one really surprised me. It was just a very small tank, but yeah, it was no filter, no heater and no CO2, so literally just a tank and a light. And the plants in this one just looked absolutely amazing. Really enjoyed this one.
Okay, it's Sunday today. The weather outside is horrible. Netherlands is still on lockdown, so perfect conditions to set up a new tank. So we're going to be making a small aquascape for the baby guppies. I'm saying it's for the baby guppies. I think they're just an excuse for me to set up another tank. Okay, so I'm currently in the process of kind of changing up the shelf a little bit. So on the empty spot I used to have the 10-liter cube. That one didn't really have a purpose anymore. I mean, the glass was pretty scratched. It was quite old already. There was just a few shrimp inside, so I took that one down a few days ago. I did still have some really good plants in there, so we might reuse some of those today. Then the 20-liter cube, I've also rescaped that one recently. There's going to be another video because I'm going to get rid of that one as well. I'm going to give it away as a birthday present to a family member. So I rescaped it into something that's a little bit more low-tech, easy to maintain. In a few weeks I'll get rid of that one. And then of course we still have the vase. So that's where the baby guppies are in right now. Of course they're all hiding now. Oh, there's one. And yeah, the vase is, I still really love the vase. I can't get rid of this one. So I think this one will get a different place in the house. And then we have 3 empty spots. And today we're going to fill up the first spot with a new tank. Right, here we go. This will be the smallest out of the 3. So this one is, well, I'm not even sure how big it is. I think it's about 10 liters, maybe 15. But this is an OptiWhite rimless aquarium from Strideways. So I found this brand like a few weeks ago when I was shopping in one of my local fish stores. And these tanks kind of caught my eye because they were very affordable. I mean, normally these OptiWhite tanks are quite pricey, but these were like well below the prices of other brands. So yeah, quite nice. It already comes with this foam leveling mat underneath, which is super handy. The glass is cut at a 45-degree angle. So I don't know if you can see that. So that's something you don't really see very often yet. I know in the United States you have the Ultimator Systems that does this as well. And recently Oase came out with a aquarium with this 45-degree angle glass. And now Strideways has it as well. So a pretty cool high quality tank. Next up we need a light. Well, that already looks good on its own like that. So this light is a Twinstar 30B. So the B stands for budget, like literally, not joking. This light is, I think it's 30 euros or something, it's like $35. And look how bright it is, and look at those greasy fingerprints. Yeah, this is a nice budget light, and I think we got ourselves a nice combination here. So like a small 10-15 liter tank. I'm not going to use any filter, not going to use any CO2. I know most of my tanks here and everything that I show on the channel is pretty much high tech. And I know a lot of you guys that are watching also prefer the low tech side of the hobby. So this one's for you. I don't have a lot of experience with no filter aquariums. I mean, the vase was pretty much the first one that I did without a filter. So yeah, but let's see how this goes. I mean, the previous 10 liter cube that was here was also without a filter, but I did set the one up initially with a filter and I just removed the filter later on. So yeah, I think this will be my first real no filter aquarium. So let's see how it goes. So full transparency, the tank and the light were sponsored by Twinstar and Strideways. I'm collaborating with them to kind of show off some of their new products. So I have a few more tanks and a few more lights as well. So in the coming weeks, you'll see more of these two brands on the channel. Okay, so that's the substrate in. Next up is the hardscape. I've already pre-selected the hardscape. I got a combination of rock and wood. So these rocks are called Millennium Stones or Oceania Stones or Spirit Stones, all these weird names. Really nice details on it, some really nice lines and textures. And then I got this piece of wood. This is Entwood. This is also from Strideways. And I got a couple of these pieces, but all of them were very like straight and pointy. And this was the only piece that had like a curve in it. So this is, I think this is perfect for that little tank. Yeah, I think this piece of wood was destined to be in this small tank. I think that looks really good, right? We have a nice little curve in there, starting high on the left, ending low on the right. So I think we can turn this into a nice triangle style layout. So we have some tall stems in the back left corner, something a bit more low on the right here. I actually didn't buy any plants for this layout. I'm just gonna pick up some random bits and pieces from all of my tanks. I have a few pots left over from the 70 liter Scapers tank as well. So yeah, let's just continue with the rocks. So it's not ready yet, but this is kind of the main idea that I'm going with. I never really come up with these layouts just on the fly like that. I've been playing and messing around since yesterday, but I really like this one. So we have a nice curve with the wood, then two pieces of stone underneath the wood and one piece on the front here. A little side view. As you can see, it's very narrow. I think it's only 14 centimeters, but we still have enough space in the back to add some plants. So yeah, I think this is good. The wood is, see, it's touching the glass here, so we need to make sure that does not happen. So we still need to make some adjustments. Also the piece on top here, I want to make sure I'm able to move the light back and forth without disturbing the hardscape basically. I think now I'm just going to attach the piece of wood to the rocks with some super glue. Then we have one solid structure and we can still kind of move it around to make sure that it's not touching the glass anywhere. Because if it's touching the glass here, then it's going to get very dirty and it's going to be impossible to clean. So we need to make sure that doesn't happen. So yeah, let's start gluing. Okay, I've run into some issues with the gluing part. So my usual method of paper towels and liquid super glue always works for me. But with this piece of wood, it's not really sticking properly. So I'm going to try something else. I've got some cotton pads. This is a little different consistency than the paper towels. So let's see if this works. Yes, we're all good. The cotton pads were a lifesaver. Yeah, everything is stuck together now. The cotton pads stuck a lot better to the wood compared to the kitchen paper. So top tip there. Now the wood is finally in the perfect position. Took a little time to adjust everything, but right now the wood is not touching the glass, so that's good. Also here it's free, so I can slide the light back and forth. So I think the hardscape is ready. I'm just gonna add a little bit more substrate to the aquarium, and then we can start planting. Okay, so the hardscape is now ready. I think that looks really good. Really happy with the end result. So now we can start planting. Well, as I said, I didn't really buy any plants for this small project, so I'm just going to use whatever I have. So I just took down the previous tank that was on that position, and over here I still have all the leftovers basically. So we have some beautiful redwood floaters. We have a bunch of like small anubias and some small crypts as well. This is some really small crypt parva, looks really good. So we can use that for sure. Over here I have 2 pots of the glossostigma. Just set up the 70-liter ScaperLine tank. I use glossostigma as a carpet there, and I have still 2 pots left over. So I'm thinking of using this, although this is not it's not really an easy plant. Since we're not going to be using any filter or any CO2, this might be a little tricky. But I'm going to try anyway. I mean, we have 2 pots, so we should be able to basically get a full carpet from the very beginning. So yeah, let's just give it a try. If it doesn't work, we can replace it with something else. And let's see what else we got. So the 2 twinscapes are both looking really good, maybe a little bit overgrown, but we really have some really nice weeping moss in here. It's looking super lush, so we can maybe take some from there. I also have 2 beautiful clumps of anubias in here. Look at this. How good does that look? Those 2 clumps of anubias we're gonna use for sure, I think. For sure, I think. Yeah, for sure, or you think? I think we're gonna use those anubias as well. Let's see, maybe we have something in the big shallow. I do really love these crypts. This is Cryptocorin Veneti compact from Danila. It's a really small. It's not small. It's like medium-sized crypt, but it looks really good, especially in combination with the glosso carpet. So I might steal a small patch from here, and then we also have a load of the tripartita, mini. This is that fresh green plant over there. I think this is a perfect plant for a no CO2 tank. So I'm gonna steal some of that as well. Over here we have my redscape. I just trimmed this one yesterday. So we can't really take anything from here, but I saved all the trimmings. So I might be able to get some from there. I mean, in the back I have some Ludwigia Super Red. So I might take some stems from that. This tank is now just over 2 weeks old. I just uploaded a video yesterday. Seems like you guys are really enjoying it, so that's good. Yeah, let's take some plants and then we can start planting.
Alright, fast forward, it's now been 10 days since we set up this little nano tank, and I'm absolutely loving it. There's something so refreshing about a tank without a filter and without CO2 injection. So I just want to do one more water test, just check if all the parameters are okay, and then I think it's time we add our guppy babies. Actually, just 2 days ago, the guppies just had another batch of babies, so the vase is getting a little bit crowded now. So yeah, this is how the tank looks after 10 days. It's not a huge difference with day one, but there definitely has been some decent plant growth, especially with the red stem plant, the Ludwigia Super Red. That one seems to be enjoying this tank. Also really like how this moss is starting to grow. So this is weeping moss, and now you can kind of see that it's starting to grow. It sort of starts to bend towards the ground, so it starts to weep, I guess. We have some crypt melt as well, unfortunately. But that was kind of to be expected. So these small crypts here in the corner, a few leaves are starting to melt, but yeah, that was totally expected. So I've added in a couple of small shrimp, and you can see one over there. So they'll be the cleanup crew of this tank. So yeah, doing good. Like I said, just want to do one more water test just to make sure we have no ammonia and no nitrite. And then we should be able to add the guppy babies. So they're still all in the vase. I think we have about 15 or 20 right now. So we just had another batch of babies 2 days ago. So as you can see, it's getting a little bit crowded in here. It's going to be fun catching these. It's definitely going to be difficult. Alright, so it's a good thing we tested the water, because actually the aquarium is not ready yet. So I tested for ammonia and nitrite, and the green one here, this is the ammonia test. So as you can see, I think we're at about 1 milligram per liter, so that is too much. And the nitrate test is actually quite high. It's actually more or less 5 milligrams per liter, so that is definitely toxic. So the aquarium is not ready for fish yet, so good thing we tested. We'll just wait a few more days, do a few more water changes, and then we'll try again in a few days. Okay, so we had a bunch of nano setups. Now it's time for something bigger. On number 6 we have the first layout in the big shallow. This one was definitely not my best work, but it was kind of the first time that I had a bigger tank in this space. So that was quite a thing, quite memorable. So yeah, enjoy.
Plant growth has been insane in only 13 days. So I've been using these for 3 weeks now on this tank, and they're still completely clean. I haven't cleaned them once. Hello? You wanna go?
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. Hope you're doing well. It's time to give you guys an update on the big shallow. It's now 2 weeks old. Well, 13 days. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks, but tomorrow it's going to be very hot here in the Netherlands and I'm not going to pick up the camera. So yeah, 13 days old. A lot of things are happening, so let me show you. Actually, before I get behind the camera, I want to give a massive thanks to all of you guys who gave me some great suggestions for the big shallow. I've ordered the fish. I'm going to pick them up next week. So that's going to be a nice video as well. Right, where do I start? Well, let's of course talk about the plants, because plant growth has been insane in only 13 days. First up, the carpet, the glossostigma. I've actually already trimmed it once,
because I had some shoots that were growing vertically, growing up. And of course we want to have a nice carpet. So all these shoots that were growing upwards, I've trimmed those. And now if you look at it from the top, you can see that it's starting to carpet really nice, all those side shoots. So let's see, hopefully soon we will have a nice carpet. And then what else? I had the crypt. Remember that the crypt green Humidity compact, I've trimmed off all the immersed leaves. So everything you see here is completely new growth. So that's insane. They say crypt greens are slow growing, well, not this one. And behind that, this is the Galantium Tandem Red. It's not red yet, but it's also growing like crazy. A bit too big, so we're gonna have to trim that soon as well. And the hairgrass in the back, it's sort of growing and sort of melting because the hairgrass is also being grown immersed. And so now it needs to transition to submersed. So we have a little die off on the on the hairgrass, but nothing to worry about really. What else? This plant right here, Hydrocotyl tripartita mini. Also a lot of new growth there, which is doing really well. In the middle, we have in the back we have the UG, Utricularia graminifolia. Also still doing really well. This was the most difficult plant that's in here, but it's still growing. I've actually also trimmed that one already, just to promote a bit more horizontal growth. What else? Over here we have the Crypt Lutea Hobbit. This one is looking really good, but this one over here, I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a little like black fungus or something on it. I'm not sure if that's algae or what it is. So I'll try to rub that off with my fingers. But I think it's also good if we start adding some algae eaters, because we're getting a little bit of algae here and there. If I stand up, see on this side of the rock, there's a lot of green algae appearing. And we have a bit of diatoms as well. You can see on this rock, there's some brown algae right there. Yeah, there's some brown algae on the glass as well. Yeah, small little bits of algae appearing. But it's completely normal in the beginning, nothing to worry about. So I think it's good idea to already add a few algae eaters. So over here in the plant holding tank, I have a few Otocinclus and I have a few Amano shrimp as well. See, one is actually pregnant, has a lot of babies. But Amano shrimp cannot reproduce in fresh water, unfortunately. So I think in this tank I have about 3 Otocinclus and 3 Amano shrimp. So I think it's a good idea if we just catch them and move them over to the big shallow. Yeah, I don't know why I thought I was going to catch these guys so easily in this dense jungle. But so far we have 2 Otocinclus and we have 2 Amano shrimp. So I'll put these in and I'll catch the other ones at a later date. I'm not going to bother temperature acclimating these guys because the temperature in these tanks is exactly the same. Water is the same, so they can go straight in. Here you go, guys. Come on. Come on. Hello? You wanna go? Yes. Where did you go? All the Otocinclus on the glass. Amano shrimp right there. So hopefully these guys will get to work really soon and start packing off some of the algae. There's some spot algae here on this big rock. I don't know if you guys can see that. You see a little bit here, these green spots. It's completely normal. A lot of algae on this rock, some algae on that rock. And if you look at the edge of the glass there, you can see some diatoms starting to appear. Really minimal, so I'm sure even these 4 guys, the 2 Otocinclus and the 2 Amano shrimp, they will get that under control in no time. Look at this one go there. racing. Yeah, good job, get to work. Straight away getting to work. Starting to pack away at some of that algae. Really nice. Let's see how long it takes them to clean that entire rock over there. I'm pretty sure if I wake up tomorrow morning, it's gonna be all clean. It's so nice to finally see some animals in here, you know. Of course it's fun just looking at the plants, but now that we have some fish in there, it's really nice. So yeah, so far I'm really happy with how this aquarium is turning out. I'm sure the diatoms will start to increase over this week, but diatoms is always part of the startup phase, so that will disappear soon enough. What else can I tell you so far? The lights, they're on for about 8 hours now. They start at 12:30 and then half an hour they ramp up to 75% intensity. I was afraid that might be too much, 75%, because it's a super strong light. But so far it seems okay, you know, it's suspended 30 centimeters above the aquarium, so yeah, 75% I think is perfect right now. So yeah, the lights are on from 12:30. At 1 o'clock they'll be at full power, and then at 8 o'clock they ramp down, and 8:30 they'll switch off. CO2 is actually on from 10 o'clock till, I would say 7. Yeah, from 10 till 7 the CO2 is on. In terms of fertilization, I'm starting to dose a little bit of liquid fertilizer. Excuse the mess, don't pay attention to that. So this is what I'm dosing right now. This is potassium, and I'm only dosing about 10 drops of this. So 1 drop per 20 liter adds 0.7 ppm of potassium. So I'm adding about 10 drops every day, and I'm also adding a little bit of this. This is just trace elements. So yeah, a little bit of iron and some other vitamins. I'm dosing about 5 drops of this per day now, and that's it really. I think I will not start dosing nitrate and phosphate for at least another 3 weeks or so. But it depends a little bit on the plants. I'll just keep an eye on the plants, and if they start showing signs of deficiencies, I'll start dosing some nitrates or phosphates. So in total, the tank is now 3 weeks old. 2 weeks with plants and 1 week before that with just hardscape. So in total 3 weeks, and until it's a month old, I will keep doing regular water changes. So right now I'm doing a water change every 3 days or so. So this week I'll do a few more water changes, and then I'll just switch to a weekly water change schedule. I'll do about 50% every week. I have to say that I'm really happy with the in and outflow from Aquarium, the plastic mini pipes that I showed you guys. So I've been using these for 3 weeks now on this tank, and they're still completely clean. I haven't cleaned them once. And yeah, the inflow is great because it's very short, so it's perfect for the shallow aquarium. And the outflow is great because I've installed the spin pipe attachment. So we're getting a very gentle flow right now, you know, because I'm running an Oase Biomaster on this tank, which is a very powerful filter. And this aquarium is still only 180 liters or 45 gallons. So it's still not a lot of water volume, you know. So it's a very strong filter for this aquarium. But now with the attachment here, the flow is very gentle. It is skimming a little bit right now. I don't know if you can see that small vortex. It's skimming a little bit. Sometimes at night I'll attach the actual skimmer, and then you get this idea. It's a bit exaggerated right now, but yeah, then also bringing a lot of oxygen in the aquarium at night, which is always good. So yeah, what else? The Oase Biomaster. It was a little bit noisy. This is not the final look, of course. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit, but I've added some foam pads just to absorb some of the sound. I've got these foam pads from a good friend of mine, and they help to absorb the sound a little bit, because actually when I when I was recording videos in front of the aquarium, you could sort of hear the filter in the background. So yeah, it's a beautiful filter. It's a tiny bit noisy though. You know what's really amazing? Like this right here is my spot on the couch. This is where I usually edit the videos. So I look at the aquarium from this side, from the right side. And I absolutely love this long view of the tank. Seeing all the way to the end. Actually seeing another aquascape. Seeing another aquascape there on the other side of the glass. Yeah, I really love this view.
So if you guys watch a lot of my videos, then you know that I like to keep my hardscapes quite simple. But this next one was far from simple. On number 5 we have my most detailed aquascape. Okay, then on number 4 we have this tank, but then the previous layout in here. And I think this is actually the longest setup video I've ever made. I think originally it was actually 2 or 3 separate parts, but I've stitched them all together for you.
Okay, we've managed to get through all 3 layers of cardboard, so it's definitely well protected. Now let's remove all this foil. Yeah, like I'm able to do that with one hand. Wow, I know it's just a glass box, but this is a very, very nice glass box. Let me actually put the light on so we can get a proper look at the glass. That's much better. So yeah, Oase ScaperLine 90. Well, I think everybody has kind of seen it by now. Definitely not the first one to have this tank. So it's 90 centimeters. I think it's 45 by 45. And then the glass has these mitred edges. Super nice. Okay, let's move on to the cabinet. Okay, so that's the cabinet cleaned up as well. They give you this wooden plate to basically place between the cabinet and the glass. But I kind of broke mine when I was lifting it up the stairs. So I think I'm going to skip this wooden plate and go for a foam mat instead. Hope that's okay. Let's take a look inside. Okay, so we have the slide out drawer. We have the magnets on the door. Then what else do we have? Over here there's a little handle, I guess for your fishnet and your towel, stuff like that. We have a gap over there. Not sure if that's for the filter, for the hoses. I think this is removable, we can use that for the hoses, but I'll show you that in a minute. Then we also have a gap in the back for all your electrical wires, stuff like that. And then on the bottom we have some holes. That is, I think, for the adjustable feet. That's perfect because my floor is very uneven, so I'm definitely going to need that. Well, current situation is not very good. Not good like that either, so let me grab an Allen key and let's actually see. Oh, they include an Allen key in here as well. So let me grab that one, let me adjust the feet and then we can put the tank back on. Took a little bit of time, but we got it done. Let's see the level thingy. That is good. And that looks good enough. And there it is in its full glory. That looks really good. Okay, so let's see, we're going to have the external canister filled on this side, of course. The question is, what am I going to be keeping on the shelf? Probably just some fertilizers, some fish food, just a few supplies, nothing special really. So yeah, let's just put the shelf in the middle for now. Nice, there's the shelf in, and I've also covered the holes for the adjustable feet. So they give you 6 of those really tiny white covers, just to make it look super clean, you know.
A few moments later.
So I've basically just been decorating the inside of the cabinet. So here on the right side, I have my 2-hour Aquarius fertilizer, the Vase Organics food line, my Seachem products. On the bottom, the power plug for the light and also for the CO2 system. Yeah, now it's complete with the Vase Biomaster. I haven't been using the Biomaster in a while. On the Big Shallow I was using a different filter, but I feel like for this set we just have to use the Biomaster, right? So yeah, I could hook it up already, but I don't have any glass lily pipes actually for this tank. I need to buy some big glass lily pipe set and then we can hook up the filter. So I think for now this is it. Okay, back home from a pretty successful shopping trip. I've got 2 pieces of really nice spider wood, and then I also bought roughly 8 kilos of a type of lava rock. Now normal like red or black lava rock is sometimes a little bit boring and pretty straight.
This stuff, however, has a lot more like detail to it, a lot more, yeah, just really nice edges, you know. So yeah, I've got roughly 8 kilos of this stuff, and I already had a little bit of it at home, so we should have enough to play around with. Now those pieces of wood are quite clean, but the rocks are relatively dirty. They're just very dusty, so I'm just going to give them a rinse under the tap, and then we can get started on our layout. Okay, so the rocks are all clean. The wood is pretty much ready to go as well. Now, one thing with rocks is I would always recommend to try to find like a mix of different sizes. So over here I got a couple of big ones, and then on this side we have mostly smaller ones, because it's just very difficult to make a nice hardscape layout if you only have rocks that are all the same size, you know. So always try to go for a mixed size. I think the next step is to go for a bit of a dry test run. So I'm going to get some hardscape in the tank, just play around a little bit, and then see if we can come up with something nice. Okay, so of course I already had a play around in the store, so I kind of already know what I want to make, but maybe you don't. Let's say this is your first time, or I don't know, you don't really have any inspiration. How do you get started? I think the best way to get started in this case is just by placing some things, some materials inside the tank. So just find your nicest piece of wood or your nicest rock, place it in the tank and just start playing around and just, yeah, see how it looks. Maybe change the angle, maybe like this. And just keep doing that until you find something that looks good, that looks pleasing to the eye, and then you start and you move on from there. Now, another thing that always really helps me is to make a decision on the kind of the shape of the layout. So either a triangular style shape, convex shape, or a concave shape. Let me just quickly demonstrate that. So if this piece of wood would be our only piece of hardscape, we could actually make a pretty nice convex layout, or also referred to as an island style layout. So we place this hardscape directly in the center. Keep the left side and the right side open as much as possible, and just focus on the plant growth in the middle as well. So we could really almost create like an island style layout. That would be pretty cool. Then triangular style, if you just move it to the left side, we could do a triangular style like this and have the plants starting high on the left and moving down lower to the right. We could do a triangular style layout in the opposite direction as well. So have plants high on this side and much lower on that side. If you want to go for a concave style layout, you would have hardscape on the right side as well as on the left side, and keep the center area mostly open. Now, I really love to do triangular style layouts. I actually currently have a few. So there's one on this side. So it's mostly triangular like this. With the stem plants on the right side, you still need to grow a little bit taller. I have one here in the opposite direction, so it's very tall on the left side and much lower on the right side. And here we have another triangular style. So stem plants still need to grow a little bit taller on the left side, but once they do, we have a nice shape like this. And I'm going to go for a triangular style in this tank as well. Basically, with the way the wood sits right now, I'll adjust it a little bit, but we'll have tall stem plants on this side and then lower plants on that side. So it's going to be a triangular style like this. And the reason I chose that is because over here we have our couch. So this is where we sit at night. Maybe we'll watch a movie, maybe we'll have some dinner, and then I can still view the tank from the side as well. So it's viewable from the front, but also from the side. And if you would flip that around, and I would have a triangular style like this, like it wouldn't be as nice, because then on this side would be a lot of hardscape, a lot of tall stem plants, and it wouldn't really look, it'd be as pleasurable to view from this side, you know. So something you can think about as well whenever you're making a new hardscape. Think about the placement of the tank, see from which side you view it the most, maybe just from the front, but maybe from the side as well. And think about that with how you make your layout. So for this particular layout, I'm going to add in the substrate first. Of course, I'm using aqua soil, and then I'm going to add the hardscape on top of that. It doesn't always have to be like that. Sometimes I can also add in the hardscape first and do the substrate after that. It just kind of depends on what you're making, and it also depends on if you're using just aqua soil or just plant substrate, or using plant substrate and sand. If you're using sand in the foreground, for example, it's a lot easier to first add in the hardscape, create a proper barrier, and then add the substrate in the back and the sand in the foreground, you know. But for this particular layout, I'm going with just aqua soil, just plant substrate, and no sand. Now, when it comes to smoothing out the soil, I always see people using these sort of like called sand flatteners. I'm actually not really a big fan of those. I much rather use a large paintbrush, just a little bit smoother. Even if you hit this against the glass, you know, there's nothing wrong. But if you hit this against the glass, I don't know, I just don't really like the sound of that, so I'd much rather use a paintbrush. Yeah, I can see there's not really enough. I want to go for like roughly 5 centimeters in front and almost double, like 10-12 centimeters in the back. So I'm going to add a little bit more aqua soil. So I found some leftover Dental Escaper soil, I found some leftover Amazonia version 2, and I found some leftover Tropica soil. The Tropica is actually the powder variant, so it's a much smaller grain. So I'm going to save that till last, finish the hardscape first, and then add a nice thin layer of the powder soil on top. Okay, there's most of the substrate in. I've kind of brushed it away from the front glass. Later on we're going to fill that in with the powder soil so we don't mix the 2 different grain sizes. It's not really a big deal, but if we can try to avoid it, then it would be nice. And of course a nice slope towards the back, just to help increase that sense of depth. Yeah, I think we can now start adding in our hardscape. Good thing about the substrate as well is that it kind of acts as a cushion, so once you place in the hardscape it just stands up a lot easier, you know. You can kind of just push it in and it will just stand on its own. We don't need to support it with rocks anymore, so yeah, see, that's looking good. This one is not super straight anymore. This one has a nice flow towards that area. I like that. So at this point a lot of it is just like experimenting and trial and error. You just have to start adding things, start moving things, tilt it this way, that way, until you're happy with it, you know? Like same thing with the rocks. I like to just look at the rocks, see which side has the most detail, which side looks the best, and then make sure that that side is facing forward. But I'll probably move it like 100 times until I'm happy with it. Especially with this thing, you know, like this is my biggest setup and I want to make sure that this one looks really, really good. So I'm going to take my time with it. And this is also the time where you have to like get it in the zone, get it in the focus mode. And I'm also going to put the camera, well, I'm not going to put the camera away, but I'm going to put the microphone away and just get in the zone and just enjoy the process. Alright, it's now the next day. Yesterday I left it like this. I was really happy with it. And this morning I woke up, still happy with it, so that's good. Sometimes it's good to take a few days and every day you can come back and make some adjustments. But yeah, overall it's just good to take your time with hardscaping. So the next step is to secure the hardscape. Because I'm lazy and impatient, I didn't pre-soak the wood, so it's still very dry and it's going to float up. So of course I could just add a rock on top of the wood, that should keep it down, but I don't really like how that looks. I'd much rather just glue it to the rocks that we have right now. Because we use lava rocks, sometimes it's a little bit tricky. I mean, normal lava rocks are quite porous and they still very light. So if you would glue a piece of wood to a very light lava rock, it's just, yeah, both of them are just going to float up. These lava rocks, however, are quite dense and they're still quite heavy, so should be no problem. I'm going to use my favorite technique, cotton pads and liquid super glue. I showed this many times already on my channel, but it's just very easy. I'm just going to take a little bit of this cotton pad, wedge it in between the points that I want to connect, then add a few drops of liquid super glue, just to saturate the cotton pad. It's going to stick everything together, super easy. So if we look at this biggest piece of wood, it's touching a rock here, so we can connect it there. We can connect it somewhere over here, in front of here maybe as well, and then another one in the back over there. So then we have 4 points where the wood is connected to the rocks. Should be enough to keep it down. Okay, everything is stuck together, but right now I do have quite a lot of that cotton pad visible. Kind of want to cover that up. So I've poured a little bit of aquasol in this cup. I'm kind of just gonna crush it into a very fine powder. And then we'll use that aquasol powder to cover up the cotton pads. Okay, so everything is secure. We can do a little test. Nothing is really moving anymore. This one's still a little bit flexible, but it's not going to float up, so that's fine. So the only thing left to do now is to finish the substrate. I have the Tropica powder aquasol. I'm just going to pour it in the front here, and then we should be done. So I think that's the hardscape done, guys. I'm really happy with it. Of course, by no means is this a very complicated hardscape. It's actually very simple. We just have 2 pieces of wood and a couple rocks, but yeah, it's kind of my style. I like to keep things simple. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you might have noticed that already. Very simple hardscapes, and then I like to make it look pretty with a lot of plants in there. So can't wait to see this planted as well. I just remembered that I still wanted to add a background to the aquarium. So I'm going to add a layer of this glass foil to the back glass of the aquarium. In the future I might upgrade to one of those fancy light screens. I currently have one on my 70 Escapers tank, but I know I don't really use it that often and it's quite pricey, so I'm not sure yet. For now we're going to go with the glass foil. Okay, tank is filled up, or almost filled up. I've just finished fitting the lily pipes and the hoses. Now it's time to prime the filter. The filter is going to take up another, well, 10-15 liters of water, I guess. So then we can fill all the way to the top and yeah, call it a day, I guess. Okay, we've got a lot of plants to work with, guys. So my inspiration for this layout basically came from a tank from the 88 gallery in Japan. I saw a video about it on YouTube and I have a picture, I'll overlay the picture right now. So I tried to order as many, sort of similar plants. Yeah, so we've got loads of dwarf hairgrass for the foreground, a couple pots of moss for the wood, different types of crypts over here, some really nice anubias, normal hairgrass, and then loads of stems. Got the Ludwigia super red, Hygrophila polysperma, and then loads of rotalis as well. So yeah, this is going to be quite a challenge to prepare everything, so let me just get started right away. Okay, so I think that was like roughly 1 hour of plant preparing condensed into like 5 or 6 seconds. So definitely took some time, but we got there in the end. I still have a few pots left. We can always prepare more if we need it, but I think for now we've got quite a lot already. So this looks really good, just loads of really healthy plants. I think the next step is to drain the tank and get started. Yeah, let's start draining the water. It's actually quite clear. Yesterday it was quite cloudy, so I did a small water change, but today the water is crystal clear, so that's good. Okay, water is drained, so we can begin planting. I'm going to start with the dwarf hairgrass, of course in the foreground, but I also want to make a curve along towards the back. So we're going to have like a little curve over here, maybe a little bit in this section as well, but we'll have to see. Obviously this is going to take a long time. I have a lot of plants and a lot of ground to cover, so I'm going to put on some music, do a time lapse on the camera and just enjoy the process. Okay, we got a good amount of hairgrass in already. I'm probably going to add more later, but for now I want to move on to some crypts. So the crypts are going to go between the rocks and the wood, and I'm probably going to have some empty spaces after that. Then I can fill it in with more hairgrass. Okay, the first crypt going in is the Wenditii Compact. I also used this one in the first layout of the Big Shallow and I really loved it there. Looks really good. Dark brown leaves. I have 3 pots of this one and I'm thinking to just keep them. I mean, I could split the pot up into smaller portions, but I'm actually just going to keep these as it is. The second crypt going in is the crypt Becketi. I don't know. Actually, I haven't used this one in a long time, so I don't think I've ever used it in a high-tech setup. So I'm curious to see how this one is going to develop. Again, I have 3 pots, so 1, 2, and then the final one is going to go underneath here. I think that's a good spot for it. Slightly shaded, but should be okay. The third crypt was an in vitro pot, so it's still very small. And it's only going to grow to about 10 centimeters, so it should stay slightly smaller than these two. So I'm going to put it a little bit more in the foreground. So over here, for example, we can put a portion underneath this piece of wood here. This next plant is a new favorite. I like it a lot. It's Laganandra mi Boldii Red. I have 2 pots for this. I'm only going to plant it in one position. So it's going to be like a nice focal point. I think a layout like this really needs some Anubias. So I've got some really nice Anubias Nana bonsai. Got 5 pots of this and I'm going to try to wedge it in between the cracks of the wood and the rocks. Okay, so I've used a lot of dwarf hairgrass in the foreground and to the side. I've also ordered a few pots of the normal hairgrass. And I'm going to use this basically over here and also on the left side over there. Just behind or just next to the dwarf hairgrass. And this is hopefully going to accentuate that triangular composition. I think it's starting to look really good. So we can now fill in the rest of the areas with more dwarf hairgrass. So we still have an empty patch over there, some more empty patches, along the front here. And then we can move on to the background, I guess. Okay, moving on to the background. I was planning to have 4 different stem plants in the background, but I think something went wrong with the order because I'm missing 1 stem plant. It's no big deal though. We can just add it later. Yeah, the plan was to start in the corner with the Hygrophila polysperma, then move on to a red one, move on to a slightly orange stem plant, and then finish with a green one again. So we have green, red, orange, green, and then the green carpet. So still the plan, but yeah, I just have to wait for the other stem plant. So yeah, first one going in, Hygrophila polysperma. This is, I think it's probably one of the most popular aquarium plants. Very, very fast growing as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if I can manage to keep it, maintain it properly, keep it trimmed. Or if it's just going to take over too fast, but we'll see. Hopefully with a nice lean dosing routine, it will not be too fast. Moving on to the Ludwigia palustris super red. Probably one of my favorite red stem plants. Okay, and then the third stem plant is the Rotala rotundifolia Laos. Really like this one, quite an easy plant as well. It's going to be like a nice orange color to the leaves. Okay, there's a background planted as well. I'm wondering if up until this point some of you have wondered where are the Java ferns? Like, surely you must be using Java ferns in this layout, right? You're absolutely right, but I got the Java ferns right here. These are my Java ferns. Let me just explain. I had a lot of Java fern in my 70-liter Scapers tank, and I'm planning to take the tank down, replace it with something else. But of course I didn't want to throw away the Java ferns. I wanted to use them in here. But I made a mistake in the tank by mixing two different types of Java ferns. I thought it would look natural, but actually I didn't really like it. So I used Trident and the Mini. So I wanted to separate them, but of course very difficult. Everything is grown together and intertwined. So I separated the Trident and basically cut off all the leaves and just bunched a few rhizomes together. I'm going to use it in this tank. Of course you're not going to see it in the first week to 2 weeks, but surely after a month we're going to start seeing new growth and it's going to look very good in a little bit of time. Okay, so I've got 3 of these Trident Java Fern rhizome bunches. Hopefully it stays that way. Maybe we'll add a drop of super glue. I'm thinking one in the center here maybe. Let's do another one on this side as well. And just like this layout can't be without Java ferns, I think it also can't be without moss. So I was thinking a lot about how to apply this, if I'm going to tie it or if I'm going to glue it, but tying it is just very difficult, especially because the hardscape is already in place. So I'm just going to glue a little bit of moss to some branches and then call it a day. And it is now the next day. Things are looking good. We had a few stem plant bunches that floated to the surface, but we can fix that in a minute. Last night I also swapped the light around, so we now have the cable on the left side, so it's kind of a little bit more neat over here. And on this side we have just a completely clear view, so really enjoying that. Now there's a few things that we still need to do today to make sure that this tank gets the best possible start, with the best possible plant growth and the least amount of problems. I've already put the light on a timer, so I'm going for 8 hours and I think it's roughly 50% intensity. We still need to add the CO2. Of course, this is a high-tech setup, so we need to get the CO2 going. We need to do water changes because we've used Aquasol as a substrate. We need to do quite a lot of water changes, so I'm going to be doing like 50% every day for the first week and every other day for the second week, and so on and so on. Besides that, we need to add some beneficial bacteria to the setup. And there's one more thing that I want to do that I've actually never done before, but you guys are going to see that in a minute. Okay, so I'm currently draining the tank. Now to make sure that everybody understands why we need to do these water changes, I just did a water test for ammonia. And as you can see, it's light green. This is supposed to be yellow. Right now we have an ammonia level of 1 milligram per liter, which is quite a lot considering that I only filled this tank up yesterday late at night and it's now like quite early in the morning. So just imagine if you don't do water changes for a couple of days, So water changes once per day for the first week, every other day for the second week, every second day for the third week, and so on and so on. Next up, let's replant those floating bunches. Okay, plants are replanted. Now while the tank is still draining, we can also start working on the CO2 system. On the big shallow, I was using a inline CO2 reactor. But I think in this tank, I'm just going to go for a simple CO2 diffuser. Here we go. CO2 is working. Bubble counter installed. I love those shiny things, this looks really cool. So the tubing goes in the cabinet from the back side. And then over here we have the CO2 bottle with the CO2 regulator just behind the filter. Okay, so that's done. I'm also filling the tank back up again. And there was a little bit more than the 50% water change, but it doesn't matter. If you just do big water changes, then you're fine. I'm also just using tap water, by the way. I'm not using RO water. But actually, most of my tanks have tap water. Just a few of them have RO. But if I would have to use RO in this tank, that would be an insane amount. So no, just tap water. And this whole return pump situation, this thing right here is just an old filter inlet from a JBL filter. Attached to that I have a long garden hose. This hose goes to the kitchen, and in the kitchen I have a pump in my sink. So that's just pumping the water right in, straight from the tap. I don't have to dechlorinate the water. I'm just trying to sort of match the temperatures to what the temperature is in the tank. I'm using a heater already. The heater is set to 23 degrees Celsius. So yeah, I think that's it. Let's move on to the next step. So now that we've installed the CO2 system, it's also very important to add a CO2 drop checker, just so we know if we're injecting the correct amount of CO2. So I'm going to add this on the opposite side of the CO2 diffuser. So I'm just going to add it here next to the CO2, next to the filter outflow. Just like so, and hopefully within a few hours this will turn nice and green. Okay, water change is done. We've added the plants, we've added the CO2. I mentioned earlier that I want to add something that I've never done before. And that's actually to add an air pump. I want to run an air pump on this tank at night. And basically I want to increase the oxygen levels at night. So what happens during the day is we inject a lot of CO2, and that helps the plants to grow, and the plants will produce oxygen. But at night the plants actually take in oxygen. So at night the oxygen levels kind of drop a little bit. And that's not really good for the beneficial bacteria in this tank, because they need a lot of oxygen as well. And of course the fish, later on we're going to add fish, we want to make sure that they get a lot of oxygen. So yeah, I want to run an air pump at night, and the idea for this basically came from the ADA gallery in Japan. Because over there, what happens at night, once the lights turn off, they actually raise the lily pipe outflow. So then they get more surface agitation, and then they bring in more oxygen in the aquarium. But I don't want to be like moving the lily pipe up and down every single day, so I'm gonna try an air pump. Okay, so we got an air pump. This one is supposed to be super silent, and I just tested, and it really is. We've got some tubing, we've got an air stone, and we've got a check valve. Now, I'm not going to be using this air stone, I'm actually going to use something else. I got myself an air diffuser, also from Aquarium, very similar to the CO2 diffuser. And this one is supposed to make the air bubbles very fine as well, because with a normal air stone, once the bubbles rise up to the surface, they kind of splash a lot of water. That's what I want to avoid. So hopefully with this air diffuser, we're not going to have that issue. Not sponsored or anything, I just bought this with my own money, so yeah, let's just test it out. So the air diffuser actually has a green ceramic disc. Very interesting. I'm gonna place it in the back left corner, right? Because I don't really want to see it too much. But I'm thinking we just do a little test run first where we can see it properly. So let's just add it here, connect it to the pump, and then see how it works. There we go. Definitely is very small bubbles. Quite impressed with that. Over here I have the pump. And well, I can't hear it, I only hear the filter humming. So yeah, I'll leave a link for this in the video description as well if you want to pick one up. Yeah, so I'm going to place it here in the back left corner. And then I'm going to put the pump on a timer. I'm thinking to just have it come on as soon as the light turns off. And then stop as soon as the CO2 turns on, basically. So yeah, quite long, but it doesn't really consume a lot of electricity, so that's fine. If you are going to be doing the same thing, make sure that you do add that check valve, because once it turns off, water can start flowing back into this system, and it can actually drain your tank quite a bit, so you want to make sure you avoid that. So I think we're basically almost done, and now we just need to wait for this tank to get cycled so we can add in the fish. Super excited about that. To make sure that we can add in the fish rather quickly, I'm going to add some beneficial bacteria. So here I have Cecum stability. These are just beneficial bacteria in a bottle. We can just add a little bit to the water column. We don't need much, and hopefully then they will start colonizing in the substrate and in the filter, and yeah, just help speed up the cycling process. Of course, we need to make sure the plants start growing as well, and for that I'm going to add some fertilizer. Now we already have quite a lot of nutrients in the substrate, so we don't really need a lot of fertilizer. So I'm going to start dosing the APT0, and this is basically just micronutrients and potassium, because the substrate will mostly release some nitrate and some phosphate, but not really like potassium and micronutrients and iron, stuff like that. So I'm going to start dosing this. The recommended dosage is 3 milliliters per 100 liters daily. This tank is 180 liters, but I mean, it's still, yeah, I mean, the plants still need to establish and start growing, so we don't need the full dose yet, I'm thinking. So I'll probably just start with half a dose. So it's now been more or less 1 month since the start of this aquarium. It's starting to look pretty good. Plants still need to grow in a little bit more, but kind of past the ugly phase now. I've also added in some more fish, and I'm really excited about these new additions. So I've added in 6 of these little guys. They're called the African butterfly cichlids. And I think these fish are like the perfect dwarf cichlid for a plant tank, because they don't really dig into the substrate. They're very tolerant of different water parameters. They're not super aggressive either. They don't grow too big, and they should be very easy to breed as well. So super excited about them. They already have quite some color, but they should definitely color up a lot more. They've only been in here for like 3 days now. So yeah, really very excited about these fish. Now after about 3 weeks, something interesting happened with this aquarium as well. I basically got a huge explosion or infestation with these really tiny bugs. You can kind of see them on the rock there. And these are called seed shrimp. And I've had a few of them here and there, some other things as well, like I've seen them before, but the amount that I currently have in this aquarium is pretty insane. I was kind of hoping that the African butterfly cichlids would eat them, but it seems like they haven't really done that at all. So these sea shrimp, apparently they feed off waste organics and detritus, so kind of makes sense. Like around 3 weeks I had a huge, thick slime layer on the wood. So of course those sea shrimp were like feasting on that and just multiplying like crazy. So I'm hoping that now that the slime is gone and I'm just not feeding too much, so there's not really much food left for them, I'm hoping that their numbers will slowly start to decline, because well, they're not really annoying or anything, but yeah, it's just kind of weird to see all these tiny bugs crawling around into the substrate. And there we have it, the new Skylight Hyperspot FM. Really happy with that. I like that it's the smaller unit, so we don't have this light spill on the edges. Just looks better, you know. This is a little bit thicker though, but I don't mind that. And I'm really happy that they still kept the mirror. It's a bit hard to see, but you can see it over here. It's just a cool little detail, you know. Okay, back to the present time. The last clip that you saw was from end of April when the tank was just 1 month old. So let's see how it looks now, roughly 3 months later. So I'm really happy with how this tank is looking right now. I don't think it's at its peak yet. I think there's still things that we can improve, but in general, I think it looks really good. Now, it definitely hasn't been a smooth journey. I think in around 2 months, this tank was actually starting to get a lot of black brush algae. I think it was multiple causes for that. First of all, we had a very early summer. So at around May, beginning of June, we had like a really warm temperature. So it was very hot in the house, and warm water always leads to more algae issues. Another thing was the cichlids. They were actually breeding a lot. So because of that, I was kind of feeding them more to kind of compensate for the loss of energy. So I was actually adding a lot of frozen food into this tank, which probably caused a bit of a nutrient imbalance, I guess. Another thing was the light. I think I was kind of underestimating how powerful this light is. So I was just running it too strong, at a too high percentage. And I should have dimmed it down a bit more. And also the CO2. So you saw in this video that I used the CO2 diffuser on this side of the tank.
and I think the CO2 distribution just wasn't optimal. And because there's some plants in the background were also not really growing properly. So after I switched to an inline diffuser, yeah, things just really cleared up basically. So in terms of the setup and the equipment, things haven't really changed that much. I have removed that air pump. I mean, the idea was nice, but it just wasn't really working properly. I was still getting quite a bit of an oil film on top of the water surface. So instead I've just switched to a intake with a skimming portion, and now the surface is always nice and clean. The oxygen exchange is good, and yeah, I think that was just the idea with the air pump was nice, but I think the skimmer just works better. Yeah, and like I said, I've now switched to an inline CO2 diffuser. This one is from CO2 Art, so it goes directly from the regulator to the outflow. Now that's been working very well. Really happy with the Oase Biomaster as well. I clean the pre-filter maybe once a month or so. Yeah, I think I've done it like 3 or 4 times now. So it's very easy to maintain. I don't actually use the heater at the moment just because we're in summer and it's still about 23 degrees Celsius in the house. Then this side of the cabinet has turned into a bit of a mess. I really need to sort this out. I am planning to add a dosing pump. I got this one from Ecotech Marine. I got it from Bulk Reef Supply. And I'm planning to add this one because we're going on holiday soon and I just want to keep adding liquid fertilizer even when we're gone for almost 2 weeks. I am still dosing the APT0, so this is a very lean fertilizer, and sometimes I'm also adding a little bit of this, the Denla Liquid Plus. This is like a complete liquid fertilizer, also has nitrate and phosphate. Then I've also made a few changes inside the tank. I mean, of course, the hardscape is still exactly the same. I've just added a few plants. The most obvious one is, of course, the Vallisneria with the reddish, brownish, bronze leaves. I think that looks really good, really happy with that. I've also added a little bit more Trident Java Fern. You can see a new bunch over here in the corner. Yeah, the Trident Fern on this side is just not doing very well. You can see this one over here has like some brown spots on it. It's just not growing, it's actually melting, so not sure what's going on over there. And then one more plant is this water lily over here. This one is called Hydroclase nymphoides. I think it's like a South American water lily, and this one is about to flower, so that's really cool. Fish have actually all stayed the same. The only thing I've done is I've removed the female honey gourami. So currently we only have the male in here. I just don't see him at the moment. Yeah, I've removed the female because I think they were kind of fighting. The female was a little bit roughed up, so I've just moved her to a different tank. And then I've added 4 Siamese algae eaters, just to kind of help with the BBA a little bit. And of course the stars of the show, the African butterfly cichlids. These guys are doing really good. Still have all 6 of them. And they've laid eggs, they have had babies a couple of times. It's always like the same pair. I think it's this male and then the female that's behind there. Yeah, it's always the same pair. And then they have babies and they last for a couple of weeks, but then eventually they just get eaten, you know. But yeah, this is just a really cool dwarf cichlid. And yeah, I've had them for 3 months now. I don't think they've really grown much actually, so yeah, they kind of stay this size, I guess. Yeah, just a really cool dwarf cichlid, very easy to keep, eats everything, is not fussy about water parameters, so yeah, I highly recommend to give these guys a try if you can get them in your area. Yeah, so as I mentioned, I don't think this tank is at its peak yet. I think there's still a few things that we can improve. Mainly plant density. So for example, the Trident ferns, I'd love to have them a little bit more dense. Also the red stem plants and the hygrophila in the back left corner, they could get a little bit more dense. But besides that, I'm really happy with that. We do also still have a little bit of algae in here, so it's a bit hard to see, but along the front glass here in the hairgrass carpet, there's some blue-green algae. And that's the only location where it is. It doesn't appear anywhere else inside the tank, but it just keeps coming back here. So I'm thinking of taking a syringe with a needle and actually filling it with some liquid carbon and basically just injecting that all along the foreground. I haven't done that yet because it's probably going to give us some die-off on the hairgrass carpet, which of course I didn't want to have before I make this video. So I'll probably do that right after. And then there's still a bit of blackwater algae here and there as well. And of course we can't have a completely algae-free aquarium, but it could be a little bit less.
Okay guys, time for the top 3. On number 3 we have the mini desk aquarium. This is probably my most viewed build video on my channel. Not sure why, but I guess you guys really liked it a lot. It has over 500,000 views, which is insane. Yeah, here it is again. Enjoy. So my idea for this layout is to basically copy or replicate one of my older layouts. I used to have a 20-liter cube with a lot of Viscidence moss. Some of my long-term subscribers might still remember the layout. And I really enjoyed it. I kept it for a long time as well. Made quite a lot of videos about it. And I kind of want to bring it back. So the hardscape from that tank consisted of like 2 pieces of wood, some lava rocks. It was actually quite simple, but all the hardscape was covered in Viscidence moss. And I've kept it 2 pieces of wood. I actually made a different layer with them as well. And I still have them. And I want to see if they fit in this little cube. Please excuse the dirty aquarium. I'm going to take this tank down very soon. But yeah, in here we have the 2 pieces of wood and some of the plants that I want to use for this layout. But as you can see, the 2 pieces of wood still have a lot of the Viscidence attached to it. It doesn't really look like much right now, but that's because these 2 pieces have been in storage for a while. They haven't really seen much light. But I think once we give it some proper light, some proper fertilizer, we should be able to get them nice and vibrant green again. Okay, let's give this a try. This one is slightly bigger, so let's put this on the left corner and this one in the right corner. It actually looks pretty good already. I really like that one on the left. It kind of fits perfectly there. This one is a bit too small, however, so I think we need to raise it a little bit, maybe with some rocks. I basically want to create a nice V in between the 2 pieces, you know, just like we have right now. So let me grab a couple of rocks. Here we go. I've got some nice black lava rocks. I'm a big fan of black lava rocks, and especially because it's going to be a no-filter aquarium. This will provide a good house for beneficial bacteria as well. So let's see if we can make a nice composition. Let's put in this lava rock. This one is going to prop up that smaller piece of wood. So just like so. And then that second piece of wood has got like a little curve here. And this rock kind of fits perfectly in that, you know? So we're going to put that in. It's a little tricky working in this tight space, but it's a fun little challenge as well. And then we just fill it in with more lava rocks. This piece right here has some nice texture, so we can put it next to that one. Here we go. So it's always a bit tricky to show the entire process on camera because you're constantly making these small adjustments, but I think this is good. I like it. We have that V. We have a nice little barrier in front with the lava rocks. I'm not sure if I'm gonna go cosmetic sand or like a carpet in front. Yeah, I'm liking where this is going. I think next step will be to glue everything together because it's all a little bit wobbly, so I'm just gonna glue the piece of wood to the lava rocks, glue all the lava rocks together as well, so it's just one solid structure. And of course, as always, I'm gonna use my cotton pad method. So I just have a little cotton pad, I take tiny pieces of it, squish it together, and then with the tweezers, I'm gonna wedge it in between the points I wanna connect. Then I take the liquid super glue, so the cyano acrylate super glue, I'll saturate the cotton pad completely, and then if necessary I will also sprinkle on a little bit of the baking soda. So super glue, cotton pad, baking soda, and then this is going to be one solid structure. Okay, that's all the hardscape glued together. So of course we now have some of these ugly white spots, but I can easily cover that up later with more moss or different plants. If it really bothers you, you can always take a little bit of aquasol, crush that into powder and use that to cover up these white spots. I'm not bothered by it, so I think we should move on to the substrate next. First up we have Wio Wetland Ionian Black. Sounds very fancy, but it's basically just crushed black lava rock. I'm going to add this in the back of the aquarium behind a piece of wood, just a small layer. Yeah, again, it's lava rock, so it's very porous, good home for beneficial bacteria. And there should be a little bit of nutrients in here as well, but I'm going to cover this with aquasoil, and the aquasoil will provide the majority of the nutrients. Okay, so we've got a nice layer of crushed black lava rock on the bottom. Now we can cover that with some soil. I've got some leftover tropical powder soil, so I'll use that. Here we go, that's our substrate layer done. It's looking good. I'm definitely going to use some cosmetic sand in the foreground here, but I'll probably save that until the very last, until we're done with planting as well, because you can see right now we already have some, oh, hello there. So right now we already have a little bit of soil lying here, and after planting that's only going to get worse. Are you going to help me prepare these plants? As always, I've got a really nice selection of plants from Denala. So we've got the Eleocharis, I've got my favorite crypt, the Legroy. This one is really small but really beautiful. I've got 2 pots of the Rotala Aestra. I've got a tissue culture pot of Monte Carlo, as well as a pot of Buceflandra Cerambu Brown. So I think that's it. Should be a nice mix of plants. Okay, plants are all prepared. Unfortunately, the Monte Carlo is not in a very good condition. I opened the pot and I immediately smelled it. It's my own fault. I received that pot like well over 3 weeks ago already, so I should have known that it might not be in the best condition. I think I'm going to replace it with some moss actually. See, in this little nano tank over here in the front corner I have some moss. And it looks a little bit like Monte Carlo, right? It's also creeping, it's also growing a carpet, so I think I'm going to use that instead. Yeah, so we can use a little bit of this and kind of wedge it in between here in these cracks. That will also kind of stop the soil from rolling forward, so that's perfect. We can also use it to cover up these white patches. Okay, that's the moss done, so let's move on to the next plant. This is the Crypt Legroy. So this is going to be a nice transition from the moss. And then behind the crypt I'm going to put some of the dwarf hairgrass. Starting to look really good. We have the moss in, we have the Buceflandra in, and the crypt as well. Next I want to move on to the hairgrass, and I'm going to use this in each corner basically, so on the left side and on the right side as well. And then of course in the background the Rotala Aestra. So this one is already quite long, so I'm just going to snip off a few of those really long stems. You can actually replant those as well, but otherwise it's just going to look a little bit silly. So that's good. So now it's a bit shorter, so we can actually split them up into nice portions and plant them. Okay, I think we're done with the planting. It's looking good. Of course, we still have a little bit of soil visible, but that's totally fine. Once all the plants start growing, especially once the Viscidin starts taking off, they'll be invisible later. Next up is to fill up with water, and then I'm gonna siphon out all these soil particles here, and then we can fill in the decorative sand. And then we're really finished. So it's now been exactly 1 month since I scaped this little cube, and I'm really pleased with the end result. I've added 5 of these beautiful Neocaridina shrimp, and they've been in here for about a week now. I've also added a few ramshorn snails. And before we wrap up this video, I just want to share a few tips on how to set up a successful no filter aquarium. Because 2 weeks ago I posted a build video of my XXL no filter vase, and I got quite a lot of questions from you guys. I think the most asked question was, how do I cycle an aquarium without a filter? And to be honest with you, this is just the same as all my other tanks. I wait around 3 weeks, do regular water changes in between, and that's it. Lately I've also been adding some cecum stability, but this isn't necessary at all. Another question was if I use heaters. Well, I currently only have 3 tanks with a heater, my beta tank, the big shallow, and the 70 liter Scapers tank. So all the small things I just keep at room temperature, which is roughly 21 degrees Celsius during the day. Then there were a few people saying that they tried a no filter aquarium as well, but they had issues where the water started to smell after a few days or weeks. So to keep the water clean and clear, I think there's 3 things that are important. The first one is regular water changes, especially in the first few weeks. The second one is a good substrate layer, because we need loads of beneficial bacteria and they love living in the substrate. But only if there's plenty of oxygen, so you want a porous substrate. And the last one is lots and lots of plants. The plants are the only filter that you have, so you want lots of them and you want them to be healthy. The last question was, where's the oxygen coming from? Again, the answer is the plants. During the day, when the light is on, the plants will produce oxygen, but at night the plants will actually take in oxygen as well, so the levels are constantly fluctuating. But I think that as long as you don't overstock a no filter aquarium, you will never have issues with low oxygen levels. So that's it guys, hope you enjoyed this one, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. On number 2 we have a video that didn't really get a lot of views, but I think that's mainly because I uploaded it a long time ago. I think when I published it I probably didn't even have 10,000 subscribers yet. But this one is one of my all-time favorites, honestly, and I think at some point I would like to do it again. Right, here we go. On number 1 we have the Amazon inspired Big Shallow. This is my all-time favorite, and with 300,000 views I guess it's one of you guys' favorites as well. So I don't usually miss aquariums after I dismantle them, but the Amazon inspired Big Shallow I definitely miss a little bit. If I would ever have a chance to have a Big Shallow again, I would definitely recreate that layout.
Yeah, so the thing is that this piece of the wood right here, this side, is in my opinion the most beautiful. It has the most character, it has the most branches sort of. On this side we just have a very long and straight stump. So of course it looks very artsy to have it coming out of the water, looks very cool. But I think it would be a shame not to have that side inside the tank actually. Yeah, so basically more like this. I think this looks really cool. I think we have a very nice flow from right to left. And we still have wood coming out over there, we have wood coming out over there, so we can use some immersed plants on that as well. The thing is that over here we have the shelf, and this is where I spend most of my time sitting. So it looks actually really cool from this side as well, you know. So if you're sitting here on a chair, yeah, I would really enjoy that view. So I basically have 2 types of rocks that I can choose from in this layout. First one is this rock right here. So this stuff right here is I think called eclipse stone. It's basically like a huge river boulder that they literally just sawed in half. So we can definitely place this on the bottom. I'll just lay flat on the bottom like this. And that will look very cool, really has that river style layout, I quite like that. But they also sent me another type of rock, which is this stuff right here. They call this Darwin black lava. So it's just like regular black lava rock, but it's a bit more detailed, has a lot more character to it. I quite like this, I think I'm leaning more towards this right now. I don't really feel comfortable placing these rocks directly on the glass, so I just placed a few of these small foam leveling mats underneath just to kind of protect it a little bit. It's actually the foam mat that came originally with this tank. It's white and I didn't really like it, so I placed it with a black one. So this is just a bit of a protection. Okay, this is still far from how I wanted, but this is just a general idea. Just to basically make like a wall with lava rocks, actually a little bit further from the back glass. And then this area here we can fill with substrate, and then we can have plants in there growing out of the water. That's basically the idea. And then those plants will be taking up this space right here. We can have like plants on the wood as well, a bit lower. And then the front area we will have mostly aquatic plants, of course. But now we just need to make a nice composition with the rocks and the wood all mixed in together. That's probably going to take a while and a lot of heavy lifting. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of like where this is going. So all the way on the right side, I basically used in my opinion, the best looking rock with the most detail. I'm gonna use that one to close the line. And I think the piece of wood kind of fits perfectly in there as well. Then there's another rock underneath there to kind of just support it and to close the gap. And 2 more big rocks on this side just to make a bit of a wall so we can fill this area up with substrate. And then another very big and beautiful rock on this side, kind of just close the line here, and then we can have it go down and have a nice cosmetic sand in the foreground here. So right now I only used about 5 very large lava rocks, so we need more smaller lava rocks in front as well, of course. And I actually have a bit more wood as well, and I think I have the perfect piece to kind of go on top here, just add another layer. Oof. Wow. I think I'm starting to like this. And just imagine a lot of this wood covered it with moss. I think some ferns as well. Actually, I really don't know much about terrestrial plants, so that's going to be interesting to find those as well. But yeah, I think if we have some nice moss on here, some ferns, stuff like that, I think that's going to look amazing. More moss on this lava rock here. This one will also be just above the water line, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, so far it's, I really like where this is going. Okay, I made a few more changes kind of off camera. Not kind of, off camera basically. I raised this rock right here. This was actually a suggestion from my girlfriend. She said this needs to be higher. And I think she has a very good point. So now we have a little bit of rock coming out of the water as well. Super nice. We can put some moss on there as well. Of course, this is going to be replaced with a lava rock, just temporarily. And I've added another piece of wood. So now we have 3 pieces of wood in there in total. Just felt like there was something missing here in this front area. So I think it's getting better and better with time. I think the next step is to go in with some smaller rocks. So right now we only use very large lava rocks. And over here I have a few more smaller rocks. It's actually a different type of rock. I'm not sure what this is called. It's also lava, but yeah, it has a slightly different color. So right now these are very gray, but once they get wet, they will be black as well. So I'm really pleased with the layout so far. I don't think I want to make any more like big changes to the layout. I'm quite happy with how it is. But this was very much a trial run. So I think the next step is to actually take everything out again and then kind of go for the real deal. Also pour in a substrate, start closing the gaps, start gluing things together, stuff like that. So yeah, I think we're doing good. Am I sweating? It's like 26 degrees in the house here. Okay, so you guys know that I usually always use Aquasol as a substrate. This time I'm actually going to try something different. This is a new product from Rio. It's called Wetland Ionian. And this basically has the same benefits as Aquasol. So this also has nutrients. It also lowers the pH a little bit. But this is much more tough. So this doesn't break down as easily as Aquasol. Aquasol can really turn into powder quite quickly. I think this is more like basically small volcanic rock. So I'm very curious to test this out. Okay, so this process was a little bit tedious and boring, so I didn't really use the camera much, but we basically closed all the gaps there with small lava rocks, a little bit of filter floss underneath over there as well, in between the rocks here. Let me show you from the side as well. Yeah, so basically all the gaps are closed with either small lava rocks or filter floss, just to make sure we don't have any soil rolling forward. Actually, I'm really happy with this part right here, it looks really cool. The black diamond lava rock, yeah, it's really beautiful, lots of texture going on. And I can already see this like being planted with smaller nubias, mosses, other terrestrial plants coming out as well. Okay, I think that's a good layer here. Actually, this stuff is really good for what I'm trying to achieve here, because it's a little bit bigger than Aquasol. It's not so round, so it doesn't really like fall into these small gaps. It doesn't really roll forward. It really just kind of just stays in place. Okay guys, it's now the next day. I woke up this morning and I walked past the tank and I immediately got a big smile on my face. I'm really happy with how this turned out, but today we're gonna make it even better. So I was pretty tired yesterday, so the only thing I ended up doing was basically gluing everything together just to make sure that this big piece of wood is not gonna float and to make sure that our dam with lava rocks is not gonna shift or collapse and our substrate is gonna pour out. So of course I used my favorite technique with the liquid super glue and cotton pads. So everything is pretty much secure right now, so that's good. Plan for today is to work on some small details, and I also want to add in the sand and I want to fill it up with water and get the filter running. So about the details, I have a few more products from Rio that we can kind of use for that. First one is this stuff right here. This is called elder roots. So these are basically just small twigs that we can, yeah, just kind of use, I think, for the lava rocks, for example. So we can use small twigs and kind of guide it all the way down. Just basically make it look like roots. Same thing over here. Same thing on the left side as well. I think that will look pretty cool. Maybe have some on the lower section as well, underwater, just to make it look more natural. Yeah, here's an example. I had this small piece right here. So basically just have this coming down here like that, you know. I think that will look pretty cool. And then I also have this stuff right here. This is druid gravel. And I'm not sure, but I think this is like small lava rocks. It's a little bit dirty, so actually let me wash it a little bit. Here we go. So it's not exactly the same, but it still has a bit of that gray and bluish tint. So I think it would be nice if we just kind of like spread this around the base over here, for example. And then have the lava rocks, then the gravels, and then our cosmetic sand. Alright, it's now like 2 hours later. I've been busy making a mess in here. I basically just had to prepare the filter, and I also have to swap the filter over to the other side because it used to be on the left side with the outflow on the left side as well, but now I'm going to have the outflow on the right side. I've also just washed the sand. It was a little bit dirty, so I had to wash it. So unfortunately we don't have the satisfaction of pouring in dry sand. It's okay. And after the sand is in, we can start filling it up with water. Sand is always a bit tricky in my opinion. I mean, it can really either make or break an aquascape, you know? So I just have to see how it looks once it's filled in with water. And then if I don't like it, I'll just siphon it out and replace it with something else. So I basically had two types of sand left over, and I kind of just mixed them together. One was very light, the other one was a little bit more, yeah, orangey, I guess. So let's see how this looks. So today has been exactly 1 week since we first filled up the big shallow with water, and we have a small problem with this tank. Yeah, so basically the main problem is the water clarity. As you can see, the water is not clear at all. It's very milky, it's very cloudy. And it's actually been like that since day 1. It's now day 7. I've done 2 large water changes already. I did one yesterday to kind of clean up the wood because we have a lot of fungus growing on the wood. Yeah, I mean the fungus on the wood, that's something I'm used to, and that will go away by itself, I hope at least. But cloudy water for 7 days straight, that's something I haven't experienced yet myself. I'm about 99% sure that this cloudiness is caused by the wood. I've never used this wood before, so I knew that it was a bit of a risk using it. But I'm sure this is something that will solve itself out in the next couple of weeks. Once we have a decent amount of beneficial bacteria in here, and once we get rid of that slime on the wood, I'm sure it will be much better. Now, another thing that's really going to help clear up this water is of course the plants. I don't have the plants yet. I'm actually going to order them tonight, and then they will arrive within a few days. But you guys are going to see that in a few minutes anyway. There's a few things that I want to do before we get the plants. Yeah, so I would really love to have some plants and some mosses on these 2 pieces of wood right here. But as you can see, they're super dry, so we need to have some moisture here somehow. I'm thinking to make a bit of a water dripping system, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so a few weeks ago I was binge watching some videos on the UNS YouTube channel. And the guys there, they were making a paludarium, and they also made this water dripping system from a UNS Delta filter. I have this filter right here, which has the same sort of outflow attachment as this Delta filter. So this filter outflow has this spray bar with these attachments on it. And to that we can attach some tubing like so. And then this tubing we can basically direct anywhere we want some extra moisture. So this should be pretty easy, right? This filter has like 9 of those attachments, so we could use 9 pieces of silicone tubing if we wanted. I think if we would just have one sort of trickling down over there, maybe you can have another one somewhere trickling down here, maybe one here and another one sort of here inside this piece of wood. I think 4 is more than enough. So I was first thinking to basically cut this pipe in half, so we only have like 4 of those attachments left, but then there's no going back, and if you want more, then yeah, I have to buy a new one. So I'm just gonna plug these holes with a little, how do you call these sticks? Here we go, and if you want more of those attachments, we can always remove these sticks. So it'll be a little bit flexible, you know? Here we go, that works. So now we just need some silicone tubing. Yeah, so I can place the filter in this corner here, and then we can put a little piece of filter foam underneath it, just to make sure it's fish safe. And then we can direct these silicone tubes somewhere along the wood here. I think that should work. All right, I think we're getting somewhere here. So we now have 4 in total. So there's one over here going all the way down this side basically. Another one going down there, down that side. So we can have moss going here. And then I have one all the way on top here. And the last one is basically in this piece of wood right there, dripping down. So I'm just gonna play around with this a little bit more until I'm completely happy with it. And I'll show you guys the end result. Yeah, so you guys are gonna see this thing getting planted in like a few minutes from now. But the thing is, I still have to wait a few days for this big plant order to come in. And I want some green in here now. So I already added this plant here. This is the, I think it's a South American lily. I'm not going to pronounce the name, I'll put the name on the screen. Super cool, it has these really tiny lily pads. And I'm going to order a few more of that one as well. But I have some extra plants that I can use right now. So I just set up this mini guppy pond on my balcony like a week ago. And we have some really cool pond plants in here. And I actually saved a few that we can use in the big shallow. And see, if you didn't see the video from this build, I'll leave a link over there, or it's over there, somewhere. So these things I want to add right now. So this stuff right here kind of looks like mini bamboo to me. I think that will look cool somewhere in the back, sort of coming out. I think it will grow a little bit taller as well. We've got this big one with this beautiful purple flowers. So let's see if I can do this big one first. I'm thinking to have it here. Instantly add some nice color to the whole setup. And I think this small one we can put in front here. So this is gonna grow like I saw in the pictures. It's gonna look super cute with those mini cigars. Okay, here we go. That's those 3 pond plants in. I'm not sure if it's gonna work. I mean, this is all very much an experiment for me. This one is not even in the substrate, but I thought it looked good there, so we'll see if it grows well. It's now been exactly 7 days since I filmed that last clip. And today's the day, guys. Today's the day we're finally going to finish the big shallow, and I can't wait to see the end result. So I'm just waiting for the plants to come in. They can be here any minute. Of course, coming directly from Nano plants. They've been a channel sponsor for quite a while now. So yeah, I feel like the water has definitely cleared up a bit more since last week. It's still not 100% clear, but we're making progress. And today we're going to do another big water change, so it should be good. I've also made some nice progress with the drip system. This is the first time I kept it running overnight. I still have to get used to the noise. Yeah, you can hear it trickling down. So we have a tube going on here. We have a tube here. Then there's a very long one all the way down. And this one I've basically punctured some holes. So kind of there's some water dripping out everywhere. And the last one is coming out here, going down all the way here. So you can definitely put some moss on that. I decided not to do anything over here. I think it's nice to also have some wood dry and exposed, but we can always still make changes later. So while we're waiting for the plants to arrive, I'm going to do one big water change now, and at the same time scrub all the wood because there's still a lot of fungus on there, so we can get rid of that, and then it should look super fresh. Alright, quick cleaning session done. Filling back up with super clear fresh water. So here you can see how clear the water is. And here you can see that cloudy old water basically. I'm going to start a filter in a second. I just want to show you guys the stuff that I use to drain and filter tank basically. I know a lot of people are interested in that. So this is just an old inlet from an old filter, from the JBL filter actually. Then I have a very, very long garden hose, goes all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. And in the kitchen I have a super cheap Amazon return pump that's just filling the tank back up. I'll put a link to the pump in the video description. In the meantime, the plants have arrived as well, perfect timing. So I'm just gonna wait for the tank to fill up all the way, then we can take a look at the plants. All right, let's just see what we got in here, shall we? Straight away, we got some beautiful Echinodorus. Again, this aquascape is going to be a little bit different from my usual style, so we have different types of plants as well. We got some Sagittaria, Ludwigia repens Rubin. I ordered a lot of Ludwigia. More Sagittaria. Okay, so I think I kind of underestimated the amount of plants that I need for this build. I don't think I've ordered enough, but it's okay. We can always buy some more. So what do we have? We have a couple of really nice Echinodorus. I have a few in vitro pots with Halantium that we can use for the aquatic section. I ordered this Hydrocotyl XXL for the transition from aquatic to immersed. Lots of portions of Taiwan moss, some floating plants, lots of Ludwigia, and lots of Sagittaria. So might not be enough, but we'll see. Let's just get started. All right, I think we're ready. Plants are all prepared. And I take back what I said. I do think we have enough plants. Once you start opening those pots, there's actually a lot more than you think. Also in the back, there's really not that much space to put plants anyway. And in the aquatic section, I wanted to keep it very minimal as well. There's only going to be like 2 or 3 types of plants in the aquatic section. And it's also more fun to see the development, you know, like we can really stuff it with a lot more plants, of course. But then as soon as it starts growing, you have to trim it already. And then you don't see the development from freshly planted to fully grown in. Obviously, we're going to start with the Echinodorus. These are the stars of the show really here. I have 3 types. This is the biggest one, and I think somewhere behind here would look good. Then we have another one. This one is slightly smaller, but it's the same type. This is the Echinodorus Ocelot, I think it's called. Okay, so that's the first Echinodorus in. 3 pieces in total. They're still very small right now, of course, but they should grow up to 40-50 centimeters. So I think they will just raise just above this piece of wood. Next up we have this one. This is Echinodorus cordifolius red, something like that. Should grow roughly the same size. So I think one on the left side, one on the right side. Yeah, should look good. Then I have one more type of Echinodorus. This one, super tiny. This is the cordifolius mini. So this one should grow up to 25 centimeters, so not too big. So I'm thinking maybe a little bit more in front there. Also on this side we still have some empty space there. Yeah, should work. Okay, so that's all 3 types of Echinodorus in. Now in between there, still quite a lot of space. And I want to fill that up with this plant right here. This is the Ludwigia repens Rubin. It's quite green now, but it should grow nice and red. And the idea that I have for this plant is to sort of act as almost like a floating plant. So I want it to grow upwards and then basically start laying on the water surface. So it's going to provide a nice color. It's going to provide a sort of a transition to the Echinodorus. I think it's going to look cool. Okay, next up we're going for this plant. This is Hydrocotyl something. I'll put the name on the screen, I forgot. Plant does not have to be in the substrate, so we can just place it anywhere we like. So I'm thinking in between there, maybe something here in between the rocks and the wood. Maybe somewhere in this little gap over here as well. Yeah, we'll see. We'll just place little bits everywhere. So that basically wraps up all the plants that are going to grow immersed out of the water. Doesn't really look like much right now, but in a few weeks it's going to look super cool, especially this Hydrocotyl. It's going to form like a cushion, you know, like basically a carpet with this plant. Going to cover everything. I think it's going to look great. Also put some of that Ludwigia in this corner over here. Yeah, I think next up we need moss. We need a lot of moss. And we did cloud the water with all the rumbling around in the substrate with all the echo doors, but we're gonna do another water change soon. So I was testing this sort of drip system here, but I only had some Physidens moss and some Ricardia, but this stuff just doesn't really work properly immersed. So I got 5 cups of this Taiwan moss. I think this will look much better. So I'm wondering if you can just lay it on there without tying it, without gluing it, and just kind of pressing it on the wood. That would make it really easy for us. Okay, that's the moss done. So of course the majority is on this piece of wood right here. We have some more on the rock on the right side, and also a little bit on this piece of wood kind of going into the water like that. Next up, let's just drain the tank, start planting the aquatic plants, fill the tank back up, and then I have a few more things to add. Okay, so this is going to be a challenge. First of all, we have to hurry up because all the plants are now starting to dry out. The second challenge is the fact that we only have a thin layer of sand in front. So it's going to be very difficult to plant in there. So I think I'm just going to plant in between the gravel, basically the small pebbles. All right, here we go. So I want to keep this very, very minimal. So I'm only going to use 2 types of grasses. This is the first one. This is the Helantium Denellum Red from Denella. I don't think it will grow red in this scape because we're not going to have very bright light. But yeah, we'll see how it's going to look. Just trying to find spots where it's deep enough to plant in. Yeah, I think that's it. Very minimal. Just a few plugs here and there. Just to add a little touch of green to the aquatic section. And of course it's going to grow bigger. It's going to start spreading. It's going to look very natural, I think. Let's fill the tank back up. And we still have a few more things to do. Shall we all just take a moment to appreciate how clear the water is? I mean, it's still not 100% clear, but this is the clearest it's been since the day I filled it up. That looks really good. So we could call it a day. I mean, I'm quite happy with how it's looking so far, but I want to spice it up a little bit more. So for the top section, the immersed section, I have 2 houseplants that I want to try out. And for the aquatic section, I'm thinking to add some botanicals. Some leaf litter, some twigs, just to make it a bit more natural. Right now we have a very white sand. It's very in your face. I think we have to make it a bit more natural. So I bought some houseplants a few days ago, and I first bought these 2. But I think they're quite big and they will just look out of place there, you know. But then I also found this one. This is a really cute small fern. I think ferns do really well in this kind of setup, you know. And I was looking for Ficus pumila, I think it's called, the creeping fig. Couldn't find it. And this sort of looks similar, so yeah, I don't know. I have no idea if this will work, but I think we should just try it out. I feel like that was exactly what we needed here on the immersed section. So this little fern and that other plant just really made it look more natural, just took it to another level, you know? Especially this small leafed plant mixed in with the moss. Just looks very, very natural in my opinion. Also added a little bit on this side. Yeah, I like it, it looks cool. Okay, so since this aquascape is all about trying new things and experimenting, I want to try one more thing with the substrate, because right now we have very clean white sand. In a way it looks really good, I quite like it, but it's not necessarily very natural, you know? So we can make it a bit more natural with this new product from Rio. This is called Biotope Bed's mulch bed. It's basically just mulch in a bag. Now mulch is just small leaves, small twigs, small pieces of bark. So we can, yeah, scatter this around the sand and see if it looks good. I'm not sure, but I think we should just give it a try. And if it doesn't work out, we can just remove it, you know? So the last thing I did yesterday was adding that mulch, the twigs. I've also shredded some catappa leaves, added a few more of those tiny rocks, and also 2 types of floating plants. So the redwood floaters, the Philanthus fluitans, and also the Amazon frogbit. You know what I think is actually my favorite thing about this whole scape? Is this little passage that we've created between this big rock and behind the wood. This little passage that the fish can like swim through and around. Yeah, actually there's a lot of like different layers that you might not really be able to see on camera because we have so much shadow. Because it looks like there's only a little bit of swimming space in the front, but behind it there's actually a lot of space left still, but yeah, it's hard to see. They can also still go all the way in the back, you know, like they still have access to this area here as well. So they can basically swim this way, all the way here, all the way around, and also still in the back, you know, like they can literally swim here as well. And that's, yeah, something you don't really see with traditional aquascapes, I guess. But with the shallow tank, with this style of layout, you can. So that's pretty cool, I think. I think it's been almost 3 weeks since we first filled it up with water, and I've also been dosing beneficial bacteria every single day. So technically, I think the aquarium is cycled and ready for fish, but we're still dealing with a little bit of this cloudiness in the water. So the big shallow is definitely testing my patience and your patience as well, because we all want to see fish in here. But I think it was the right move to just wait a little bit longer, because it would be a shame to go to the shop now, buy the fish, add them in here, and just not really being able to see them properly because of the cloudy water, you know? Because we've been so busy focused on the hardscape, on the planting, we haven't really spent any time or any attention on the equipment and what it takes to run this beautiful aquarium. I want to do a quick rundown of the equipment. It's actually not that much, it's quite simple. I want to take a look inside the cabinet, and we're also going to upgrade the cabinet with some new equipment. And I've ordered something online that's going to upgrade the whole immerse section and take it to the next level as well. Anyway, there were a few people in the comment section saying that I should buy this gadget, and I'm super hyped about this. We have ourselves a mist maker. So I already saw these previously under the ADA brand name Dua, but they were quite expensive, like 60 euros. So then of course I went to Amazon. Amazon always has things very cheap. So I found this one for like 20 or 25 euros. I'll put a link in the video description. So I never used a mist maker before, but I think that's really going to take the whole immerse section to another level. So let's just stop talking. Let's get this thing installed, see what it looks like. So I just read the instructions, and ideally this thing should be like 5 centimeters below the water level or something. So I want to hide it somewhere in this gap over here. So I think we can put it there and just put it on like a little platform so it's just below the water surface. Okay, I think we're good. You can just see it just behind these leaves. Doesn't want to focus. Doesn't matter, let's just switch it on, see if it works. Okay, that is sick. Look at this, guys. We have some proper mist. That really reminds me of those like early mornings when you walk past a lake and there's this mist on top of the water. I don't think this is something that I'll keep running 24/7. Maybe only when the lights are on. I think even that, maybe just something, you know, when you have some guests over and you really want to impress them with your layout. Or if you want to make some really cool B-roll like this, for example. I love it. Thanks to everybody who suggested in the comments that I should buy it. Really happy with that. So next up, let's do a quick rundown of the equipment. Let's start with the lights. This is the Skylight Hyperspot L. I think it comes in 3 different sizes. So you have one with like 4 spots, you have one with 6 spots, and this is the biggest one with 8 spots. This is by far my favorite light for these big open top tanks, especially if you want to hang the lights from the ceiling. They just look really, really good, really sleek. It's very powerful also. I think I currently only have it on like 30 and 50%. There's 2 channels, like warm white and cold white. It is an RGB light, but there's only 2 channels. So I think one channel is on 30% and the other channel is on 50%. Okay, then in terms of equipment inside the aquarium, we just saw the mist maker on that side. On this side, I have a small skimmer. So this right here is the Vase Crystal Skim 350. I think it's a new product from Vase, hasn't been released that long ago. Yeah, quite a nice surface skimmer. What I like about it is that it has 2 separate modes. So if you remove the skimming portion, you can see there's a plus and a minus on there. So if you put it back on and then you twist it this way, it's plus. If you twist it that way, it's minus. So let's open it all the way up. So this is the strongest setting. And if you push it back down again, twist it to minus, this is the lowest setting. If you remove this floating portion, there's a little grill. And inside the grill, there's just a small sponge. That's it. Super simple, but it works quite well. I don't have any livestock in here just yet. But this doesn't suck up any fish, but it might suck up some shrimp. So that is a bit of a downside. But besides that, it's a pretty good skimmer. Then on this side, we have the filter inflow and outflow. These are the plastic pipes from Aquarium. I think it's called the Neo Flow. I really like this set basically because you can cut it to size. So this is a shallow tank. It's only 30 centimeters high. So if you want a glass skimmer, it doesn't really fit here. It's either too big or it's too small. So with these pipes, you can just cut it to size, and I can cut the intake to basically just exactly where I want. So that's nice. I like the small skimmer on the outflow. It just helps with the surface scum. Ideally, once this aquarium is recycled and we don't have so much surface scum anymore, I would like to remove that skimmer over there and just rely on this small skimmer here. That'd be nice. But of course, the inflow and outflow is attached to a filter, which we have inside the cabinet. This is the Vase Biomaster 850 Thermo. If you go back on my YouTube channel to some older videos from like maybe half a year to a year ago, I have some videos about this filter, basically where I was not really happy with it. It was making a lot of noise. It was blowing a lot of air into the aquarium. And I was also using CO2 at the time, so it was really not really helping me. That's also why we have these foam pads, because we're very noisy, but right now it's actually super quiet. I barely hear it. So I don't really need this anymore, to be honest. Yeah, we have the filter, we have some products from Seachem, and then behind that we have the power supply with the power strip and all these sockets. Then moving on to the middle compartment, this one is basically just storage. On the bottom we have my bucket, my mayonnaise bucket, with hoses, sponges, all the kind of things that I use for cleaning. My water test kit, some foam mats, and then this device right here is quite interesting. This is the Intaco controller. This is a very smart device that I'm not really using properly, but today I want to change that. We're going to bring it back, use it properly. Right now it's only controlling my lights, but with this you can also attach 2 fertilizers. It has 2 pumps. You can also check CO2 levels. I'm not using CO2 at the moment, but you can check it. And you can also check the temperature inside the aquarium. So super handy device. Today we're going to bring it back. And then on this side, more storage. We have some boxes, with a lot of stuff. Behind the boxes we also have my CO2 set that I used to run on this aquarium. Right now we're not using CO2 anymore. And also behind this, we still have the CO2 reactor that I'm also not using anymore. So we can remove this, place it somewhere in storage where I'm not going to be able to see it anymore. It's not going to be in the way. So we can just properly pimp this cabinet because we need space for something else. And that something else is this box right here. This is the F-Zone Auto Top Off. And I think this is going to make my life a lot easier. So basically the story here is that with the Big Shallow I get a lot of evaporation. It was already pretty bad with the first version, the Iwagumi. But now with this new layout, we also have this water dripping system. And I think the evaporation got even worse. So that was really starting to bug me. And then literally like a few days ago, F-Zone reached out to me and said, "Hey Mark, would you like to try out our new auto top-off system?" I was like, Yes, that's what I need. So they sent this over. Of course, sponsored, they didn't pay for this product. And today we're going to install it, test it out. Super curious. Yeah, so we're going to install that auto top-off system later in this video. But to be able to do that, I think I have to apply a little bit of DIY to this cabinet just to make sure it works. And I want to do a few more DIY things. First thing being with this filter, the Vase filter. I don't know if you guys have seen the ScaperLine cabinets where they have this pull-out drawer where the filter actually stands on. So it's much easier to do the maintenance. I want to see if I can build something like that myself in this cabinet. I think I have a pretty good idea for it. And another thing I want to do is for the Intaco controller, if I want to use it properly and also use the filter pumps, I need to be able to raise it. So I think I want to have it somewhere here. So in order to do that, we have to do a little bit of DIY. So let's go to the local hardware store and see if we can find everything we need for this DIY project. So just a heads up, my DIY skills are not very good, so don't expect anything fancy in this video. Now my idea was to get these drawer sliding type of things and simply attach them to the bottom of the cabinet and attach the other side to a platform made from wood. Sounds easy and should work, right? So I bought that, and I also found these wooden holders that I thought would work well for the Intaco controller. First thing I did when I came home was cut that piece of wood in half because I want to make two of those slide out platforms. One for the filter and one for the reservoir of the auto top-off pump. Next I went ahead and attached those sliders to the floor of the cabinet and to the platform. But then I found out that my idea wasn't going to work with these particular sliders. So I had to go back to the hardware store and buy some new ones. I found these grey ones and they work much better. The sliders were $8.50 per set and that piece of wood was €10. So total cost for just one of these slide out platforms is less than €15. For the water reservoir I'm using a UNS 30cm cube, but you can use anything that holds water for this purpose, of course. Next up is to prepare those holders for the controller. So I bought two of them and I just took a little bit of black spray paint and gave them a few layers with that, just so it matches nicely with the cabinet. After the paint was dry, I just mounted them to the side of the cabinet and placed the controller on top of it. And now we have more than enough space for these big bottles of fertilizers, so I'm going to add the Masterline NPK and the micro, and with the controller we can make a schedule for when and how much fertilizer we want to add. Now we just need to get the fertilizer in the aquarium, and for that I'm using these acrylic pipes from Aquarium. With a little bit of heat you can bend these in any shape you like, so I went for a simple 90-degree bend. Then it was just a matter of attaching them to some silicone tubing and connecting everything to the controller, and that was that part of the automation done. Then all that's left to do is set up the auto top off. This was surprisingly simple. The system comes with a magnetic sensor that you can place anywhere you like, and for now I'm going to place it right where it's perfectly visible, just so I can keep an eye on it. Same goes for the hose for the pump, and then the pump goes in the reservoir, and that's it. So that was just a quick recap of this DIY project. I wish it was that quick in real life as well, because it took me a lot longer than I anticipated. But it's done and I'm really happy with the end result. You can actually see a little bit of smoke behind the aquarium there coming from the mist maker. So the water filter is now on this slide out platform. When I disconnect the hoses there, I can actually pull it out, push it back in for easy maintenance. Another thing I did is I mounted the power supply for the controller to the side of the wall, just to make it a bit more organized, a bit more safe. And then on this side we have the controller with the two fertilizers. So they're now calibrated, and every day 2 p.m. The controller will pump a little bit of fertilizer in the aquarium. And then we have the water reservoir for the auto top off. Super sleek. I'm very curious how long it's going to take to drain this 30cm cube. How much water will evaporate in like a week time. Let's keep an eye on that. Then we have the auto top off. So we have the sensor. So there's like a high and a low on the sensor, and the water level sits exactly in the middle, and once it drops to the low, the sensor will activate the pump, push the water back in. From now on the water should always be at this level, so I'm really curious how that's going to go in the next few days, weeks. I have to say I was a little bit nervous because what if the sensor fails and all of a sudden it's like overflowing the aquarium, but I don't think that's going to happen. And then lastly on this side we have the acrylic pipes for the fertilizers. This is the micro fertilizer, this is the NPK fertilizer. I've just attached them to the side with some suction cups, and then they go all the way down inside the cabinet. And the last thing I also did is I added the temperature sensor for the Intaco controller. So this one is now checking the temperature, and I can see what the actual temperature is inside the aquarium with the Intaco app. To be honest with you guys, I'm actually really happy that I managed to do all this DIYing before the fish got here. Because if I had to do all that while the fish were already in the aquarium, you know, the drilling, the making noise, the banging against the walls, like the fish would be super stressed as well, you know. So I think it was a good call to wait with buying the fish. But I think we're really getting there. I did a large water change yesterday and the water is still quite clear right now. So next week we're adding the fish for sure. Let's not wait any longer, let's just do it. No more delays. Next week, fish in here, promise. So plan for today is to go to my local fish shop Heems, and hopefully they will have a nice selection that will suit this Amazon inspired aquascape. I already have some ideas in mind and I got some really good suggestions from you guys as well. But I'm not really trying to just focus on one particular fish. I'm trying to keep an open mind because I don't know what the fish shop's going to have in stock. Maybe we'll see something that we haven't thought of that's going to be amazing in here. Basically the main plan is to go for some dwarf cichlid, some tetras and some cories. I think those three types is like the perfect combination for an Amazon inspired aquascape, right? And before we leave to the shop, I just want to do a quick cleaning session. We still have some white slime on the wood. We also have a little bit of diatom algae. So just a quick cleaning session, big water change as well. And then the aquarium is looking super fresh for the new fish. Right, so nice big water change, that's about 80% I think. I just remembered that I want to do one more thing, which is the inflow and outflow. This is the Aquarium Neo Flow, and this one is really quite old, it's more than a year old, so it's not as translucent anymore. So I just want to quickly swap it for a new one, just to make sure that it looks nice and fresh. I just want to do this before we get the fish, so after the fish are in here I don't have to touch this aquarium anymore, you know? So that's it. At the end of this video we're going to have fish in this aquarium. I cannot wait, I'm super excited. So let's go to the fish shop, see you guys when we get there. Okay, we're here. It's actually very hot today, so they open up all the lids from the tanks just to get some of that hot air out. So it might be a little bit extra noisy, but I'll keep the microphone close to make sure the audio is good. So we're looking for some Amazon South American fish. We need some dwarf cichlids, we need some tetras, maybe some more cories as well. So let's see what they have. Of course, the easiest choice for dwarf cichlid is the Epistogramma. So I think here we are spoiled for choice. We have Agassizi, Racquetoides, Magmasteri, more Agassizi, Vieta, then we have some albino or yellow golden rams, Agassizi super red, the blue rams, and the traditional German blue rams. And then we have some Apistogramma Hongsloi. These are really nice. And on this side they also have the Apistogramma Borelli. It's a really good selection of Apistogramma here. Right now I'm leaning mostly towards the Hongsloi. I think they're really nice. But I don't know, I just looked inside the tank. I think I'm seeing only males. I'm not sure, it's always a bit hard to see. Let's keep looking around. Let's do a little B-roll with some tetras and some cories. So I just noticed that they have a small group of the Corridores habrosus. I think I'm taking them home because I already have the Vermeers, I already have the Rastatus, and now we have these ones as well. I think it's cool to have like a nice mix of all three pygmy cories. So that actually turned out to be quite a successful trip to the fish shop. Can't remember the last time I came home with 5 bags. It is quite late though, I have to start cooking dinner. So I'm going to add the fish to the aquarium, acclimate them, give you guys a sneak peek. And after dinner we'll come back and release them. Okay, that's bag number 1. This one is probably an easy guess. I think you can see from there as well. Bag number 2. Again, I think it's an easy guess. Bag number 3. Not sure if you guys can see it from there. Bag number 4. This one we already talked about. Big shell is getting full. I think we can fit one more bag without any issues. This one you're not gonna guess. And just like that, it's 2 hours later. Fish have been properly acclimated. I've had dinner. Everybody's happy. So let's take a look at what we got. Let's start on the left side. Bag number 1, we have 5 salt and pepper cories, the Corydoras habrosus. Then on bag number 2, we have 1 male and 2 female of the Apistogramma hongsloi. Super excited about this one. Bag number 3, we have roughly 30 of the green neon tetras. Bag number 4, we again have 30 of the green neon tetras. Bag number 5, we have 1 male and 2 female of the Apistogramma borelli. These do not look like much right now, but if you know Apistogramma borelli, you know that these are going to be absolutely beautiful. The male is going to be really nice and blue, and the females will be really bright yellow. Super excited about that. So I wasn't sure about the whole male-female situation in the tank for the Apistogramma hongsloi. I thought I saw only males, but then I took a look together with one of the owners from the shop, and he basically guaranteed me that we have 2 females in the bag. So let's hope he's right. Yeah, I've been very unlucky when it comes to finding a nice pair of a dwarf cichlid. So that's what we have, and they've been here for the past 2 hours. So let's not wait any longer. Let's get them all released and let's get them into the tank. So let's start with these Corydoras, then we'll move to both types of Apistogramma, and then we can save the real deal 60 neon tetras till the very last. So the first fish are just 5 salt and pepper cories. That's quite yeah, I didn't really saw that coming, but here we go. Whee! 5 small cories in 1 big tank. So it's quite late now already, so maybe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow I'll try to catch the other cories from the other tank. We can add them in here as well, and then I think we have a nice group. Maybe we can still add more, but let's just see how this goes. Okay, moving on to the real showpiece. Apistogramma hongsloi. Never kept him before. Super excited to see them behaving in this aquarium. I was doing a little reading on the way here, and seems they're a little bit hard to breed. They really like soft water, which I do not have, so let's see what happens. As long as we just get some nice behavior, I'm happy. And I really hope that we have indeed 1 male and 2 females. They're very different from other Apistogramma as well, in my opinion. Like, these are very brightly colored, a little bit higher body as well. They seem to be struggling with the flow a little bit, so we'll see how that goes in the next few days. Maybe I'll reduce it a little bit. Okay, let's move on to the Apistogramma borelli. Now with these 3 I'm quite confident that we indeed have 1 male and 2 females. It's quite easy to spot the differences here. So the first one coming out is definitely a male, and the other 2 are females. These are a little bit easier to breed as well, I think, so yeah, it would be nice to see that happen in this aquarium, to be honest. Here we go, that's our male. Immediately discovering the tank, and then on this side we have both the females. Yeah, they definitely seem to be struggling with the flow a little bit. So right now I basically have the jet portion, and I just received this sort of like lily pipe attachment, so we can definitely reduce the flow a little bit. Well, let's see how they will manage it in a few days. I mean, they've just been released. Of course, it'll take some time for them to get used to it. That's a male hongsloi and a female borelli. Curious how they're gonna get along together. There's plenty of space for everybody, right? I mean, if you guys are gonna be fighting in this big of a space, then I don't know what to do. All right, shall we do this? Shall we release the neons? So I'm gonna try to turn this into a thumbnail for the video. So I'm gonna try to release them all at the same time. Do it quite quickly so they all move out. So let's do this. Nice. Is that all of them? Always double check the bag. Yes. This is so cool, guys. I think this is the perfect fish for an aquarium like this. I could have gone for the neon tetras or the cardinal tetras as well, but these guys just stay a little bit smaller, you know? And I really want small fish in this aquarium, so super happy with that. Of course, right now they're schooling super tight against the flow. Curious if this is going to stay like this, or after like a day it's going to be they're all swimming all over the place, you know. I guess this is the reason why these fish are so popular. I mean, besides cardinal tetras, neon tetras, and these guys, there's not many other fish that give you this really beautiful behavior and these beautiful bright neon colors. Left to right, right to left, and back again. Okay people, it's now the next day. I just got myself a nice haircut, that was definitely necessary. Lights just turned on and we have something weird going on inside the aquarium. Yeah, so I just noticed that we literally have a mushroom growing out of the hardscape. I've never seen anything like that before. It's pretty cool though. I'm not sure if it can do any harm, but definitely looks cool. Besides that, fish are doing really good. I think the neons have definitely relaxed a bit more. They're not schooling as tightly anymore. The apistogrammas, I think they're definitely exploring the region behind the hardscape, because I haven't seen much of them just yet. And the corridors are doing just fine as well. So last night before I went to bed, I gave them some dry food and I just defrosted some of these mosquito larvae as well. So let's see if these guys are hungry. So this one just came to the front, and this was supposed to be one of the Hongsloi females, and right now I'm starting to see a lot of red on the belly, so I'm guessing we have another male. So 2 male Hongslois, and then let's just hope that the third one is a female. Even if we have 3 males, it's no big deal. I'm not planning to breed them in here, but it would just be nice to see some of that sort of like mating behavior, you know. Other than that, I'm not really seeing much of the apistogrammas. I see them once in a while there in that little opening over there. So I think they're definitely having fun in the back. That's okay, as long as we see them once in a while. I think now is actually a good time to add in the rest of the cories. So we still have them in the 45p. So let's catch them and add them in here as well. Alright, so here's a little reminder. Don't put fish in a densely planted tank if you only plan to keep them there for a very short time, because catching these cories from that 45p was not easy. Still think I don't have every single one of them, but that's okay. We can catch the rest when I take down the tank, for example. So these have been acclimating for quite a while now, so we can definitely release them. And you're free again. No stress. So what I like about the tail spot cories is that they kind of swim more. The real pygmaeus kind of really stick to the sand. I think the habroses as well. But yeah, the tail spot cories, they really swim freely. It's fun. So it'll be interesting to see how these cories are going to behave in this shallow, because ever since I got them, they were quite skittish. And the big shallow was quite a bright aquarium. The 45p was quite bright as well. And here we have a lot more shadow, so they should feel more comfortable, I guess.
So that was it, guys, my top 10 best setups that were created in this space. Hope you guys enjoyed this extra long compilation. Also, let me know if you agree with this top 10 or if you want to make some changes. For now, this is it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.